Chapter 4107. How is it? Now you know that we didn't lie to you. Li Feng looked at the Divine King with a mocking look. In the past, countless people had begged Qin Feiyang to help them open the door to their potential. But now, the opportunity was right in front of this God King, yet he still doubted it. Li Feng, don't be rude. Lord Divine King didn't know about it either. It's reasonable for him to doubt us. Qin Feiyang stopped Li Feng, looked at the Divine King, and said with a smile, "Senior, let's continue." The Divine King took a deep breath, calmed down the shock in his heart, and nodded at Qin Feiyang. Time flew. The Divine King's door of potential was completely opened. In the past, it would be impossible to help a person open all the doors of potential in such a short time. Because when opening the door of potential, one would suffer a lot of damage, and it would take time to recover. But now, Qin Feiyang mastered the law of life, and he could heal a little damage in the blink of an eye. As all the doors of potential were opened, the Divine King immediately felt a qualitative change in his body. It was a kind of transformation and sublimation. Whether it was potential or comprehension, they were countless times stronger than before. Go. Qin Feiyang looked at the flame magic sword and smiled faintly. What a waste of my time. The flame magic sword grumbled unhappily and disappeared into the sky like lightning. Senior, how do you feel now? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Better than ever. Now, the Divine King felt like he was dreaming. The door of potential that he had bitterly pursued for countless years was now opened so easily, and all at once. Wasn't this too absurd? But the truth was happening to him. It was hard not to believe it. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, put away the jade box in his hand, and said, "As long as we have these medicinal pellets that can unlock the door of potential, Senior, can you imagine how many monstrous geniuses like Jiang Yunshuang and the other two can be created for your god clan?" The Divine King's eyes trembled when he heard this. If there were enough pills, then any young person with a bit of talent could be transformed into a peerless genius. Even people with no cultivation aptitude could be transformed into geniuses. Just thinking about it made her heart burn with passion. From a small perspective, the value of crystal veins and spirit veins was not even worth mentioning. In the grand scheme of things, the value of Jiang Yunshuang and the other two was nothing compared to the medicinal pills here. That's right. She was already tempted. The Shin clan did not lack geniuses, but peerless geniuses were still very rare. As long as he cooperated with Qin Feiyang and obtained these pills, it would only be a matter of minutes for him to create a peerless genius. Junior has already laid out the conditions. Next, it depends on Senior Divine King's decision. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The Divine King tried to calm himself down. After pondering for a moment, he looked up at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Can you let me think about it first?" Although the medicinal pellets that could unlock the door of potential were full of fatal temptation, after all, it was going against a ruler. As the ruler of the Shin clan, he had to consider all aspects. Sure. Qin Feiyang nodded, and with a wave of his hand, they returned to the main hall. Please sit. Although the Divine King had not agreed yet, his attitude had changed. Not only was he not as cold as before, but he also personally poured tea for them. Senior, there is no need to be so polite. Junior has already expressed his intentions, so I will not disturb Senior's meditation. I hope Senior will consider it carefully. Even if not for yourself, you have to think about the Shin clan. Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and smiled. The Divine King pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, "Understood. Goodbye." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly, then turned and left with Long Qin and the other two. The Divine King was silent for a while, then tore open the clothes on his chest again and looked at the potential mark on his skin. The look in his eyes was extremely complicated. Originally, he was full of resentment towards Qin Feiyang and the others. He also thought that in the future, the Shin clan and Qin Feiyang would definitely be in a situation where one side would not rest until one side was dead. But he did not expect that such an episode would happen now. On one hand, there was the temptation of the door of potential, and on the other hand, there was the fear of the ruler. How should he choose? At the same time, under the escort of the law enforcers, Qin Feiyang and the others quietly left the island. In other words, except for these law enforcers, no one knew that they had been to the island. The mountains and rivers in the night seemed to be covered with a layer of mysterious veil. Long Qin turned to look at Qin Feiyang and frowned. Why don't you strike while the iron is hot? What if she doesn't cooperate with us and even tells these secrets to the Central Dynasty, the Sea Clan, and the Beast Clan? Yes, Qin Dage. This time, you are indeed a little inconsiderate. Once the Central Dynasty, the Sea Clan, and the Beast Clan know these secrets, we don't care, but the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan will definitely not be able to escape. Boss G and the others are good to us. If we harm them in the future, I will never be able to live with my conscience for the rest of my life. Li Feng nodded. Don't worry. The Divine King will not betray us. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Why do you say so? Mu Qing also looked at him in confusion. The Divine King's previous performance is enough to prove that she has begun to waver. The reason why she said she needed to think about it is that she wants to confirm whether the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan has really cooperated with us. In other words, she is worried that we may be lying to her. Of course. And the attitude of the human paragon. If Boss G and the others can see the importance of the human paragon, as the Divine King, she will naturally be able to see it too. If nothing unexpected happens, when the human paragon expresses his opinion, she will definitely express her opinion too. Qin Feiyang smiled. I hope so. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Li Feng shook his head and sighed, then asked, when do you plan to go and have a heart-to-heart talk with the human paragon again? A heart-to-heart talk? The corners of Long Qin and Mu Qing's mouths twitched. That was too easy for him to say. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment, then shook his head and looked in the direction of the East Continent. He shook his head and said, not for now, because our strength hasn't changed much since the last time we went to Mount Supreme. We can't give the human paragon the greatest sense of security. If they wanted to convince the human paragon, they had to make him feel that they were reliable. But to be reliable, brains alone weren't enough. Because sometimes, no matter how smart you were, it would be useless if you didn't have enough strength. So right now, they had to increase their strength as soon as possible. The so-called as soon as possible was only a shortcut. Snatched the ultimate meaning. Now that the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan had made their stance clear, of course, they couldn't do anything to the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan. The human paragon and the Divine King were also considering it now, so they definitely couldn't do anything to them. So, their target was naturally the Sea Clan and the Beast Clan in the East Continent. Li Feng followed Qin Feiyang's gaze and asked uncertainly, are you planning to go to the East Continent? Qin Feiyang nodded. Going to the East Continent, not only could they improve their strength as soon as possible, but they also had the opportunity to make the Divine King, the Monarch, and the human paragon look at them in a different light. It was killing two birds with one stone. What about Lu Zhongtian and Zhuang Mingyue? Mu Qing asked. These two people, one had the Eye of Oblivion, and the other had the Eye of Destruction. Both were their targets. There's no hurry for this matter. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Anyway, Lin Yi and Lu Xingyang weren't around at the moment. Suddenly, he frowned slightly, turned to look at Mu Qing, and said, can you help me find the whereabouts of the two ancestors? He had always been puzzled about the whereabouts of Qin Badian and Lu Xingyang. The blood ancestor, the feather emperor, and the little rabbit should know, but they never mentioned it to him. Okay. Mu Qing nodded and opened his all-seeing eye. He was certainly no stranger to Lu Xingyang and Qin Badian. Soon, he saw a zone of nothingness. It seemed to be a void, endless, and there was nothing. But somewhere in the void, two figures sat cross-legged, squinting their eyes slightly and looking calm. It was none other than Qin Badian and Lu Xingyang. Ha! Mu Qing observed for a moment, and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang asked, quite nervous. Don't worry, the two of them are fine. They should be cultivating in seclusion somewhere. Mu Qing first comforted him, then frowned and said, but I've never seen this place before. Never seen it before? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then asked, is it possible that it's the little rabbit's cultivation cave? No. I've been to the little rabbit's cultivation cave. Mu Qing shook his head. That's true. Qin Feiyang nodded. Back then, Mu Qing followed everyone to the little rabbit's cave to cultivate. But apart from the little rabbit's cave, where else did they not know? Li Feng said, tell me more clearly, what kind of place is it? It's a void of nothingness. Except for Qin Badian and Lu Xingyang, I can't find anyone else. Mu Qing told them what he saw. Qin Feiyang and Li Feng looked at each other and pondered for a long time, but they couldn't find the relevant place. Mu Qing smiled and said, for now, they are at least safe. As long as they are safe. Qin Feiyang nodded, breathed a sigh of relief, and smiled, thank you. You're welcome. Mu Qing waved his hand. Qin Feiyang thought for a while and sighed, why don't you help me find Lin Yi again and see if she is alive or dead? He was a little afraid to face it. Okay. Mu Qing was closing his all-seeing eye, but he immediately opened it again when he heard this. After a while, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly, and his expression was full of astonishment. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. This reaction is a bit strange. This. Ahem. Mu Qing looked at Qin Feiyang hesitantly. Why are you looking at me? Tell me. Qin Feiyang urged. Mu Qing said cautiously, if I tell you, don't be angry. Angry? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. It can't be. Lin Yi. Mu Qing smiled bitterly and said, she is in the little rabbit's cave. What? Qin Feiyang's expression froze. Li Feng and Long Qin were also stunned. In the little rabbit's cave? Is there a mistake? Chapter 4108. No. Didn't Little Rabbit say that Lin Yi went to the East Continent alone to find us? Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing in a daze. But now, why was she in Little Rabbit's cave house? Obviously, this little rabbit is fooling you. Mu Qing smiled helplessly. If it were someone else, they would definitely not be so wicked. But with Little Rabbit's character, what wouldn't it do? But back then, you didn't cultivate in its cave house. Why didn't you see Lin Yi? Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing, puzzled. It should be Little Rabbit who asked her to deliberately avoid us. Mu Qing shook his head. This bastard, I really want to put it on the fire and roast it. Qin Feiyang's face was dark. She was obviously on Sky Cloud Island, but she had been hiding it from him. She even said that she might have encountered an accident, making him sad for nothing for so long. Wait. Over the years, it didn't let you enter that cave house. Is it worried that you would discover Lin Yi's existence? Mu Qing asked. It must be so. Wait. Wait for me to go back. See how I will settle accounts with it. Qin Feiyang was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He had never seen such a bastard. Long Qin couldn't help but snicker. In this world, there is actually someone who dares to fool Qin Feiyang? It's really fun. Phew. Taking a few deep breaths and suppressing the anger in his heart, Qin Feiyang looked at the three and asked, do you have the coordinates of the East Continent? No. The three shook their heads. We should have asked the Divine King just now. Qin Feiyang frowned. Then I'll go and inquire. Li Feng asked. Okay. Go and come back quickly. Qin Feiyang nodded. Li Feng opened a space-time tunnel and left quickly. Qin Feiyang and the other two landed on the mountain below and waited quietly. In less than half an hour, Li Feng returned, frowning tightly. What is it? The three of them were suspicious. Something bad seemed to have happened. Mu Qing landed in front of the three and said with a frown, I've found the coordinates of the East Continent, but the situation is not good. What's the situation? The three of them were puzzled. Let's go over first. What you hear may be false, but seeing is believing. Li Feng pondered for a moment and opened a spatial passageway that led to the East Continent. The three of them exchanged glances and followed Li Feng into the space-time tunnel with a bellyful of questions. East Continent. This was a continent that was half land and half ocean. On land, mountain ranges rose and fell, and ancient trees towered into the sky. Countless ferocious beasts ran amok, filled with blood and slaughter. The ocean. As far as the eye could see, it was a magnificent sight. Islands of various sizes were scattered all over the sea like stars in the sky. There were countless sea beasts living here, but all of them were under the jurisdiction of the Oceanic tribe. In short, the Oceanic clan was the overlord of this ocean. At this moment, above a mountain range, the ferocious beasts in the mountains were in groups, but their strength was not very strong. The strongest of them were only half-step sovereigns. Suddenly, a spatial passageway appeared in the sky, attracting the attention of all the ferocious beasts. It seems to be the aura of humans. Humans actually dare to come to our East Continent, courting death. The eyes of all the ferocious beasts flashed with ferocious light. They seemed to be disgusted with humans. Soon, 3 men and a woman walked out of the spatial passageway. They were Qin Feiyang, Li Feng, Mu Qing, and Long Qin. 4 of them at once. These humans must have eaten a leopard's guts. The ferocious beasts' eyes were unfriendly as they slowly rose into the air and surrounded the 4 of them. Seeing this scene, Li Feng frowned slightly. Qin Feiyang, Mu Qing, and Long Qin were a little surprised. Although the aura they exuded now was not strong, they had already made a name for themselves in the divine kingdom. However, these ferocious beasts still dared to come and surround them. From the looks of it, they even intended to attack them. Did they not know their identities? Suddenly, a tall ferocious beast rushed out from the mountains below. It was a giant ape. It was more than 10 meters tall, with hair all over its body like steel needles, exuding a sharp aura. Moreover, there was a third eye between its eyebrows, which glowed with a blood-red light. The 3-eyed giant ape looked at Qin Feiyang and the other 3 and said with satisfaction, for humans came at once. You are really lucky. I declare that you will be my slaves from now on. What? Slaves? Qin Feiyang, Mu Qing, and Long Qin were stunned. Did they hear it wrong? They were going to be slaves. Moreover, it did not ask for their opinion and directly announced it. Were the ferocious beasts of the East Continent all so arrogant? Didn't you hear it? Come and greet your master. The other ferocious beasts saw that the 4 of them were indifferent and immediately shouted angrily. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were speechless. How dare they treat them as slaves? Mu Qing turned to look at Li Feng and asked, Is this the situation you want to talk about? Yes. Previously, when I changed my appearance and asked someone about the situation in the East Continent, an old man told me not to enter the East Continent. I was very curious at that time and asked him why. In the end, he told me that the beasts and oceanic clans in the East Continent are very unfriendly to the creatures in the West Continent, South Continent, and North Continent. And their greatest pleasure is to enslave the creatures in the East Continent and torture them as slaves. At that time, the old man who warned me was once enslaved by a ferocious beast in the East Continent. It was not easy for him to escape. Li Feng secretly explained. I see. Qin Feiyang and the other 2 suddenly understood. At first, I didn't believe it, but now it seems to be the case. He also said that even if the Protoss and the purple gold divine dragons enter the East Continent, if they are not strong enough, they will not be able to escape the fate of being enslaved. Li Feng transmitted his voice. Preposterous. Long Qin was furious when she heard that. A group of ferocious beasts and oceanic clans dared to be so arrogant. She looked at the three-eyed giant ape and sneered. Don't you recognize us? The three-eyed giant ape was slightly taken aback. It looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and said disdainfully, "It's just a group of cats and dogs. Do I need to recognize them? Cats and dogs?" Qin Feiyang and Mu Qin looked at each other. How much courage did it take to be so arrogant in front of them? Because no one dares to step into the East Continent, the news in the East Continent is more limited. Other than the upper echelons of the beasts and oceanic clans, the other ferocious beasts and oceanic clans might not know of our existence. This three-eyed giant ape is only a half-step dominator. It's not a big deal in the East Continent. It's normal that it doesn't know us. Li Feng thought. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly smiled. He looked at the three-eyed giant ape and said indifferently, "You want us to be your slaves? Do you have the ability? How dare you? How dare you speak to our king like that?" The surrounding ferocious beasts bared their teeth and their eyes flashed with a fierce light. The three-eyed giant ape was the same. It laughed and said, "The humans who came to the East Continent were as arrogant as you in the beginning. But after becoming our slaves, all of them kneeled and begged for mercy." Is that so? Qin Feiyang laughed. Don't say. It's really interesting. Since coming to the Divine Kingdom, this was the first time he met such an arrogant guy. Moreover, it was merely a half-step sovereign realm beast. Take them down. I want them to know that slaves should have the consciousness and attitude of a slave. The three-eyed giant ape roared and took a step back. The surrounding ferocious beasts heard it and immediately released a powerful aura, pouncing toward Qin Feiyang and the others. What a bunch of reckless fools. Li Feng took a step forward. The power of law rolled out and rushed toward the group of ferocious beasts. Roar. Immediately. Accompanied by miserable howls, the surrounding ferocious beasts died one after another. Blood stained the sky. What? The three-eyed giant ape's pupils shrank. A great perfection dominator was so strong? However, it seemed to be fearless and said coldly, "I advise you to be sensible. If you dare to resist, the barbarian king will not spare you." Barbarian king? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Who was this? The barbarian king is the king of this area. He has the strength of a great perfection dominator and has more than a dozen slaves in his hands. If you don't obediently surrender, when the barbarian king comes, none of you will live. The three-eyed giant ape sneered. More than a dozen slaves? Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked curiously, human or god? The humans have them too, and so do the gods, the three-eyed giant ape answered instinctively. But as soon as it finished speaking, it was furious and shouted, "You are just a slave. Are you qualified to inquire about the barbarian king? All right. I am really convinced by your courage." Qin Feiyang was helpless. Slaves. Aren't the East Continent's beast and sea clan a little arrogant? He looked at Li Feng. Li Feng's eyes flashed with killing intent and landed in front of the three-eyed giant ape. Compared to the three-eyed giant ape that was more than a dozen meters tall, Li Feng was like a dwarf. But, in terms of strength, 100 three-eyed giant apes couldn't even block one of Li Feng's fingers. Boom! Li Feng slapped with his palm. The three-eyed giant ape howled on the spot and its chi-si was directly shattered. "You are presumptuous," the three-eyed giant ape roared in exasperation. "You are the presumptuous one." Li Feng's eyes were cold as he punched the giant ape's face. The skin and flesh of the giant ape's face were split open. Then, accompanied by a miserable howl, the three-eyed giant ape smashed into the mountains below like a meteorite. 1,000 zhang tall mountain had been razed to the ground. You are finished. The barbarian king will not let you go. The giant ape was still clamoring. It was really arrogant. Li Feng took a step forward and stepped on the three-eyed giant ape's head. He said contemptuously, "You dare to be arrogant in front of us? You are really courting death." As his voice fell, Li Feng exerted force on his foot. The three-eyed giant ape's entire head immediately sank into the soil, and a trail of blood appeared. Blood gushed out. The skull was being crushed. This scene caused the surviving ferocious beasts in the surroundings to be extremely shocked and furious. "Don't kill it. Let me read its memory first." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly and landed beside Li Feng. The puppet mark appeared and disappeared into the broken skull of the three-eyed giant ape. Mu Qing and Long Qin stood in the air and looked at the three-eyed giant ape in a sorry state. They didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 4109. Now, the king, the divine king, the sovereign of the human race, and the sovereigns of the various races, they all had to be polite when they saw them. But now, a mere half-step sovereign realm beast dared to be so arrogant in front of them. They really didn't know if this three-eyed giant ape was stupid or cute. A moment later, Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and looked at the three of them, saying, "It does have some confidence. No wonder it dares to be so arrogant." "What confidence?" Mu Qing and Long Qin landed beside Qin Feiyang. The beast race of the East Continent is very united. Anyone who dares to hurt a beast in the East Continent will become the enemy of the entire beast race. This is what it relies on. Qin Feiyang smiled. So that's the case. The three of them nodded in realization. Li Feng asked, "What about the barbarian king it mentioned?" "This barbarian king is actually a bull king. It is indeed the beast emperor of this area and has mastered an ultimate profound. It has 12 slaves in its hands. 3 from the god race and 9 from the human race." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. There is really a god race. Li Feng was shocked. They must have eaten the guts of a leopard to enslave the god race. Weren't they afraid that the divine king would find trouble with them? In fact, they are just ordinary people of the god race. If they are the direct descendants of the god race, these beasts will also be wary. Qin Feiyang smiled. That's true. Ordinary people of the god race are just like ordinary humans. Li Feng nodded. Mu Qing looked at Qin Feiyang and asked with shining eyes, "You just said that the barbarian king has mastered an ultimate profound?" "Yes. However, you might be disappointed. It's just an ordinary ultimate profundity of a law." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "I was really happy for nothing." Mu Qing pursed her lips. Hey. Aren't you guys a little arrogant? Are the ultimate profound meanings of ordinary laws not ultimate profound meanings? Long Qin's face darkened. The ultimate profundities of ordinary laws were only second to ultimate laws, but they were also very powerful techniques. But these few fellows actually had looks of disdain on their faces. Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. Thinking about it, it made sense. Back then, in the Sky Bell Divine Treasure, not to mention a nomological inheritance, even a nomological miniature had to be snatched with all their might. Now, even though he had the chance to obtain the ultimate profundity of an ordinary law, he still had a look of disdain. It seemed like what Long Qin had said was true. They were all a little arrogant now. Although we can't use it, we can give it to your secret guards. 6,000 shadow guards is not a small number. Moreover, other than the 6,000 secret guards, you also have many relatives and friends. Everyone grasps the ultimate profound of the 6 Daos laws. That's not realistic at all. Long Qin rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang. Right. Qin Feiyang nodded his head. 6,000 secret guards, each of them grasping the ultimate profound of the 6 Daos laws, a total of 36,000 inheritances. In addition to the others. For example, Long Tianyu, Wang Xiaojia, the 5-clawed golden dragon, Pai Lupi, Wang Changyuan, and so on. At the very least, it would require more than 36,000 inheritances. This was probably harder than ascending to the heavens. Unless, they could slaughter the entire beast race and sea race and snatch their ultimate profound. Moreover, even if they didn't give it to Wang Changyuan and the others, they could give it to the beings of the Black Tortoise world. For the beings of the Black Tortoise world, the ultimate profound of an ordinary law was completely priceless. Kill it. Go and meet this barbarian king. Rescue the 12 slaves while you're at it. It's also a contribution to the divine kingdom's human race and god race. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Okay. Li Feng nodded and stomped down. Accompanied by a miserable howl, the 3-eyed giant ape's head exploded like a watermelon, and its soul was annihilated on the spot. What? He actually killed the ape king openly. Is this a provocation to our beast race? Quickly go and inform Lord Barbarian King. The surrounding beasts were unable to restrain their anger. They turned around and flew away like lightning. But with their speed, how could they compare to Qin Feiyang and the others? The few of them arrived at the Barbarian King's territory first. Because Qin Feiyang had read the 3-eyed giant ape's memory, he knew where the Barbarian King lived. However, on the way there were endless troubles. Every beast they encountered had an arrogant and despotic attitude. Behind, Qin Feiyang was a little helpless and activated the concealment art. It wasn't that he was afraid, but that he found it troublesome. Activating the concealment art would naturally solve these problems. A huge mountain peak stood tall among the mountains. This mountain was called the Barbarian King Mountain, and it was shaped like a huge bull. At this moment, at the peak of the mountain, a tall black bull was standing at the peak of the mountain, holding a huge wine jar in his hand. It was the Barbarian King. Behind it, there was a group of monsters. At this moment, their eyes were looking at the void in front of them. In the void in front of them, there was a fight taking place at this moment. The two people fighting were both young. One was from the god race, and the other was from the human race. Both of them were desperately trying to kill each other. The Barbarian King was enjoying the fight between the two while drinking wine in big mouthfuls. He seemed to be enjoying it very much. The group of beasts behind him was even noisier. Obviously, this group of beasts was having fun. At the same time, on the other side, under a big tree, there were 10 people sitting on the ground in a sorry state. 8 humans and 2 god race. Without exception, they were all in ragged clothes, with disheveled hair and bloodstains all over their bodies. Their eyes were empty and lifeless. Sometimes, they would raise their heads to look at the two people who were fighting. There was a trace of sadness in their empty eyes. That's right. They were the slaves of the Barbarian King. Years of humiliation and beatings had almost numbed them. Now, the meaning of their existence was to provide entertainment for these beasts. To put it bluntly, they were like livestock in captivity. They also tried to resist. But time and time again, in exchange for more serious bullying and humiliation. So now, they were all in despair. This is too much. This is too much. The human race and the god race are being trampled by a group of beasts. Li Feng clenched his hands. At this moment, Qin Feiyang and the other 3 were standing on the peak of a mountain on the opposite side. They could clearly see this scene. It is indeed the tragedy of the human race and the god race. At the same time, it also reflects the violent character of the beast race and the sea race. Mu Qing sighed. Long Qin snorted coldly. Isn't it because they have the support of the sovereign of the divine kingdom? Record this scene. In the future, let the divine king and the human race sovereign take a good look. A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes. The Sky Cloud Realm, the Black Tortoise Realm, the Ancient Realm, the Underworld King's Hell, and even the Great Qin Empire and the Forgotten Continent also had beasts. But the beasts in these places were very cute in his eyes. Because many beasts were more emotional and valued friendship than humans. But now, the scene in front of him completely subverted his understanding of beasts. It made him deeply disgusted. When Li Feng heard this, he suppressed the killing intent in his heart and took out a voice transmission stone to record it silently. Bastard! Are you playing with us? After fighting for a long time, there is still no winner. I will give you another 10 rounds. If you still can't defeat the other party, I will kill all of you. The barbarian king stared at the two people fighting and laughed. When the two people who were fighting heard this, their eyes trembled slightly. They became even more unscrupulous, and every move was fatal. In just 5 rounds, the God Race youth relied on the mark of the God Race to severely injure the human race youth opposite him. The human race youth screamed and fell straight down. His body was almost torn apart. The God Race youth looked at the fallen human race youth and turned to fly in front of the barbarian king. He bowed and said, "Master, I have defeated him." "Me? In front of Master, you still dare to call yourself me?" The barbarian king raised his eyebrows and kicked the God Race youth's lower abdomen. The God Race youth was in so much pain that his face turned red. He bent over and covered his lower abdomen. Large beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. The barbarian king looked at the God Race youth arrogantly and asked, "Now tell me, how should you call yourself?" "I." The God Race youth trembled with fear. "You still dare to call yourself I?" The barbarian king was furious. The wine jar in his hand smashed on the God Race youth's head with a clang. Blood immediately flowed from his head. The God Race youth screamed in horror, "I deserve to die, please spare my life." "You don't even deserve to be called a villain. In the future, you have to call yourself a dog. You are my dog. If I ask you to bark, you have to bark like a dog. Do you understand?" The barbarian king patted the God Race youth's face arrogantly. "Yes, yes." The God Race youth nodded repeatedly. "Okay." The barbarian king smiled proudly and said, "Now, you can bark a few times for me to hear." The God Race youth closed his eyes in pain. It would be better to kill him directly. But he knew. Even if he took the initiative to ask for death, the other party would not let him do as he wished. "Who can save me?" The God Race youth wailed in despair in his heart. He opened his eyes and was about to bark like a dog. "Lord Barbarian King, you are really awe-inspiring. You even dare to humiliate the God Race." But at this moment, a sneer rang out. "Someone is here." At this moment, the 12 slaves present immediately looked in the direction of the sound, their eyes full of expectation. At the same time, the barbarian king and the group of beasts couldn't help but be stunned. They looked up suspiciously at the opposite side, only to see 3 men and a woman suddenly appear on the empty mountain top. Humans? The barbarian king was stunned. The group of beasts were also completely stunned. There were actually humans who took the initiative to come to their door. But the 9 humans and the 3 God Race couldn't help but shiver. They looked at Qin Feiyang and the other 3, their eyes full of signals for help. As long as it was a human, they had hoped to escape. R. Chapter 41:10. These people don't know us? Li Feng looked at the 12 slaves in surprise. If they knew them, they would have called out their names immediately. Maybe they have become slaves of the barbarian king before the divine kingdom invaded the sky cloud realm. Mu Qing said in a low voice. However, the barbarian king didn't know them. It seemed that they were just small fries in the East continent. That makes sense. Li Feng nodded. It's the first time I see humans taking the initiative to come to me. It's really interesting. How about this? Seeing that you are so sincere, I will reluctantly accept you as my slaves. The barbarian king came back to his senses and immediately laughed. Ah! Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. Were all the beasts in the East Continent so arrogant? Congratulations, Lord Barbarian King. Congratulations, Lord Barbarian King. You have obtained 4 more slaves. A group of beasts shouted respectfully. Then, they looked at Qin Feiyang and the others and shouted, "Didn't you hear? Hurry up and kneel down to thank me." All right. I'm convinced. Li Feng shook his head helplessly. What kind of monsters were these? They actually rode on top of their heads and acted wildly. They really didn't know how to describe these guys' stupidity. However, when the barbarian king and the other beasts heard Li Feng say the word convinced, they thought that he was sincerely convinced and couldn't help but laugh. Boom! However, at the next moment, a monstrous aura suddenly erupted. Li Feng, who was originally harmless, instantly turned into a killing god. His whole body was surrounded by blood-red murderous aura. Peak Dominator Realm? The barbarian king was slightly taken aback. His eyes suddenly showed joy as he nodded and said, "The strength of these slaves is not bad. Who gave you the courage to say, slaves?" Li Feng took a step forward, and the law of slaughter surged out. The world suddenly became bloody and murderous. The barbarian king was shocked. The strength of this killing force seemed to have reached the level of the ultimate profound. The ultimate profound of the law of slaughter, I like this slave. You should obediently surrender. From now on, you will be my #1 slave. The barbarian king was extremely excited. This was the first slave that it had ever encountered who had mastered the ultimate profound. The beast emperors of the East Continent also competed with each other. Slaves were one of the reasons for the comparison. When there was nothing to do, the various beast emperors would gather together and compare the number of slaves they had, as well as the strength of their slaves. As such, driven by his vanity, the barbarian king had always wanted a slave who could master the ultimate profound. But he never had the chance. However, he didn't expect that someone would take the initiative to deliver themselves to his doorstep. This made it overjoyed. He couldn't even bear to be ruthless. #1 slave. You think too highly of yourself. Trash like you, even if you were to be my mount, I would express my disdain. Li Feng's face was filled with disdain. How dare you? How dare you be so rude to the barbarian king? Sir Barbarian King. Don't waste your breath on him. Cripple him first, then slowly tame him. The group of beasts laughed sinisterly. It is indeed a little presumptuous. The barbarian emperor stared at Li Feng. His bell-like eyes flickered with a terrifying light. Boom! The next moment, a terrifying aura rushed out of his body, and the surrounding beasts and slaves retreated in horror. Immediately after, that more than 10 meters tall body continued to grow, and soon, it became a giant beast with a height of 100,000 feet. Its aura was monstrous. Law of Force, 5th Profound, 100,000 feet body. Li Feng was taken aback. A 100,000 feet tall giant beast with its feet on the ground and its head on the sky looked a little scary. At least you have a little eyesight. It's not too late to surrender to this king now. The barbarian king's wild laughter was like thunder, shaking the world. It's really crazy to the extreme. Li Feng's eyes froze. Blood waves rolled around his body, and blood swords dripping with blood appeared out of nowhere. The sharpness that could tear the world apart swept in all directions. The ultimate profound of the law of slaughter. This king is crazy. But you, a mere slave, dare to be so arrogant. You really don't know what death is. The barbarian king roared, and a gust of wind blew between heaven and earth. Immediately after, wisps of invisible force burst out of its body like a raging storm, destroying the surroundings. God's wrath. It was as if a god had descended. He punched down. Clang. 99 blood swords that were dripping with blood were constantly shattered. This is the ultimate profound of the law of force. Long Qin whispered. It seems that this is the ultimate profound that he has mastered. Mu Qing smiled faintly, then suddenly looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, have you also mastered the law of force? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. That's really a coincidence. Mu Qing suddenly laughed. It is a bit of a coincidence. Qin Feiyang's eyes were also full of smiles. If the barbarian king had mastered other ultimate profound, he might have left it to others. But since it was the ultimate profound of the law of force, he would gladly accept it. Crack. After a few breaths, 99 blood swords that were dripping with blood were shattered. Li Feng's face turned slightly pale. However, the barbarian king's fist was also injured by the blood swords. After all, they were both ultimate profound, and their strength was comparable. But because of the injury, the barbarian king was furious. His 100,000 feet body was like a mountain, and his aura was shocking. Let's see how I'll torture you, my slave. The barbarian king laughed sinisterly. You need to be taught a lesson. Killing intent flashed in Li Feng's eyes, and the law of time rolled out. What? Ultimate profound. The group of beasts that were hiding in the distance were shocked. What's the use of the ultimate profound? I have it too. The barbarian king smiled disdainfully, and a wave of death force emerged. No way. He also mastered the ultimate profound of the law of death? Mu Qing was stunned. If that's the case, then it's really an unexpected surprise. Long Qin laughed jokingly. Li Feng was also quite surprised. But after careful observation, it didn't seem to be the case. The barbarian king's law of death was indeed correct, but its strength didn't seem to have reached the level of the ultimate profound. Immediately, there was a hint of playfulness in his eyes. With a wave of his hand, a vast galaxy fell from the sky, exuding a destructive aura. What? This is the ultimate profound of the law of time? The barbarian king was stunned. The ultimate profound is indeed nothing great, but do you have the ultimate profound of the ultimate profound? Li Feng smiled proudly. The galaxy fell like a bright waterfall, heading straight for the barbarian king. Damn it. It's actually the ultimate profound. Could it be a certain genius of the human race? The barbarian king panicked and hurriedly retreated while looking at the 12 slaves, shouting, "Go up and block the galaxy." The 12 slaves' faces turned pale. Wasn't this sending them to their deaths? No one dared to go up. After all, this was the ultimate profound of the ultimate profound, comparable to the existence of a sovereign divine weapon. You're courting death. Seeing that the 12 people were indifferent, the group of beasts next to them suddenly became furious and pounced on the 12 people. If you don't resist now, when will you? One of the god race young men roared. Boom! The god race imprint erupted. All kinds of ultimate profound appeared out of nowhere. The strongest was the 5th profound. This little strength was nothing at all. Seeing this, the other 11 people immediately began to resist. Their strength was similar to the god race young man. Beside the barbarian king, there were several beasts that had mastered the ultimate profound. Following their disdainful and sinister laughter, those ferocious beasts activated their highest profoundness and charged forward with crushing force. Disobedient slaves, kill them directly. The barbarian king shouted angrily. Little Qin, please. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Long Qin. What did you call me? Long Qin's eyes widened. Little Qin. Qin Feiyang looked at her suspiciously. Is there a problem? Long Qin frowned. Can you not call me so intimately? I don't seem to be that familiar with you. Also, don't you have hands? But although he was dissatisfied, his actions were still quite swift. Instant time activated. In an instant, it landed in front of the 12 slaves. The ultimate profound of the death law appeared. Before the will of heaven was activated, it directly swept across a large area. It's the ultimate profound of the ultimate profound again. The barbarian king's eyes trembled. What are you looking at? Li Feng's cold and bone-chilling voice suddenly sounded. The barbarian king suddenly quivered, looked up at Li Feng, and exclaimed, "No!" The Milky Way fell, and countless stars flickered, instantly drowning the barbarian king. Although his body was 100,000 feet long, he couldn't block the Milky Way's attack. Blood surged out, dyeing the sky here red. "Don't kill him." Qin Feiyang opened his mouth and smiled. Li Feng glanced at Qin Feiyang, stared at the barbarian king, and snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, the stars in the sky dissipated. At this time, the barbarian king was already at his last breath. Not only his sea of qi, but even his sea of consciousness and divine soul had suffered fatal damage. With a bang, he fell to the ground, and his 100,000 feet long body quickly returned to its original appearance. On the other side, the other ferocious beasts were almost completely exterminated by Long Qin. The 12 slaves stared at the scene with their mouths agape. They never expected that there would be such a powerful existence. "Thank you, Senior. We will never forget your kindness for saving our lives today." When they came to their senses, the 12 immediately knelt in front of Long Qin and said gratefully, "Senior?" Long Qin was stunned. She could accept it if they called her Lord or Your Highness. But she felt a little awkward when she heard the two words, "Senior." Long Qin waved her hand and said, "Go back quickly, and don't set foot in the East Continent in the future. After all, you won't be so lucky to meet us every time." "Yes." The 12 people nodded respectfully, looking up at the world. They were finally free. Long Qin looked at the 12 people and smiled faintly. It turned out that there was also a sense of accomplishment in saving people. Then, she stepped forward and walked toward Qin Feiyang and the other two. Li Feng had also stopped, firmly stepping on the barbarian king, who couldn't move at all. "You are courting death." At this point, the barbarian king was still clamoring, as arrogant as the three-eyed giant ape. "Shut up. Others are afraid of you, but we are not. Killing you is as easy as killing a chicken." Li Feng directly kicked the barbarian king, who wailed in pain. Chapter 41:11. Who the hell are you? Even the prodigies of the Protoss, the human race, and the purple gold divine dragon race wouldn't dare to act presumptuously in our territory. King Brute shouted angrily. "What's so great about the East Continent? What's so great about the prodigies of the human race, the Protoss, and the purple gold divine dragon race? Even the divine lady of the Protoss, Jiang Yunshuang, died in our hands. Why would we be afraid of you, a mere beast race?" Li Feng's face was full of disdain. "What? Jiang Yunshuang is dead? And she died in the hands of these people?" The 12 slaves were about to leave, but when they heard this, they immediately turned their heads and looked at Qin Feiyang and the others in horror. This must be a joke. How was that possible? Jiang Yunshuang had been famous for a long time. Even King Brute had heard of her, let alone them. When they heard the news of Jiang Yunshuang's death, their faces were also filled with shock. Who exactly were these people? They actually had such terrifying strength. Wait. Did you come to the East Continent to seek refuge? King Brute suddenly looked at the 4 of them in surprise. Seek refuge? The 4 of them were stunned. Where did this come from? You killed Jiang Yunshuang and will be hunted down by the Protoss. That's why you came to the East Continent to seek refuge. King Brute said. The 4 of them were stunned. This imagination was a bit rich. However, it had to be said that the idea of taking refuge was quite reasonable. Jiang Yunshuang was the divine lady of the Protoss. As a divine lady, she would definitely be hunted down by the Protoss if she died in their hands. Qin Dage, I have a plan. Li Feng said telepathically. What is it? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Why don't we beat them at their own game and pretend to seek refuge in the East Continent? Let's see how the beast race and the Oceanids react. Li Feng thought to himself. This idea is good. Firstly, we can protect the king and the others. Secondly, we can take the opportunity to get close to the Oceanids and the beast race. Mu Qing nodded. They definitely couldn't let others know that the purple gold divine dragons were cooperating with them. Especially the Oceanids and the beast race. Now, as long as they told the Oceanids and beast men that they had entered the East Continent to avoid the pursuit of the divine king, the monarch, and the human supreme, no matter how shrewd the Oceanids and beast men were, they would never suspect that the monarch had betrayed the sovereign. This idea is indeed not bad. Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment and nodded in approval. I was just saying it casually. You don't have to take it to heart. Li Feng smiled. He had thought of an idea on the spot, but he didn't expect everyone to agree. This made him feel flattered. Mu Qing teased, you came up with such a good idea just by saying it casually. It seems that you are a wise man who looks foolish. Ha! Li Feng laughed dryly and lowered his head to look at the barbarian king. Yes, we are here to seek refuge. Seeing that Li Feng had admitted it, the barbarian king immediately regained his confidence. He said proudly, since you're here to seek refuge, you'd better be polite to me. What? Be polite to you? You really know how to play along. Have I given you any face? Li Feng kicked him again and said proudly, even if we're here to seek refuge, we're not a place where scum like you can act presumptuously. I will definitely report this to the Beast Lord. By then, there will be no place for you in the East Continent, let alone seek refuge. The barbarian king was extremely angry. This was outrageous. They came here to seek refuge, but they were still so arrogant. Is that so? All right, since there's no place for you to seek refuge, I'll kill you first. Brother Li chuckled. He exerted force with his foot, and the barbarian king's head was instantly crushed. Don't. The barbarian king roared in horror and hurriedly said, don't kill me. I can take you to see the Beast Lord. No need. We have our own feet. However, it's not impossible for you to live. Give us the ultimate meaning of the law of force, and we'll let you go. Li Feng said with a faint smile. What? Give us the ultimate meaning of the law of force? The barbarian king's body trembled. Was this a joke? It was not easy for him to comprehend it. It was also his capital as the Beast Lord in this area. Don't even think about it. If he really wanted to hand over the ultimate meaning, he would rather die. Then there's no other way. I can only send you to heaven. Killing intent flashed in Li Feng's eyes. However, the barbarian king was not afraid at all. This made him feel helpless. Why did he have to take away the ultimate meaning of the law of force voluntarily? It was too troublesome. Kill me. Do you think I'll frown? Seeing that Li Feng did not kill him, the barbarian king took the initiative to clamor. Li Feng raised his eyebrows. If it weren't for the ultimate meaning of the law of force, do you think I would let you live? Mu Qing pondered for a while and waved at Li Feng, indicating that he should let go of the barbarian king. Li Feng glanced at the barbarian king coldly and retreated to Qin Feiyang's side. The barbarian king raised his head and looked at Li Feng with provocation in his eyes. My bad temper. Li Feng was furious. Calm down. Qin Feiyang stopped Li Feng and turned to look at the 12 people. He frowned and said, aren't you going to leave? Don't tell me you want to avenge Jiang Yunshuang. We wouldn't dare. The 9 human youths hurriedly waved their hands. What a joke. How could they threaten the existence who had mastered the ultimate meaning of the law of force? Besides, Jiang Yunshuang was the goddess of the God clan. She had nothing to do with the human clan. In fact, Jiang Yunshuang's death was a good thing for the human clan. However, because they had just recovered from the shock, they did not come to their senses for a long time. As for the three god race youths, they couldn't help but shudder and hurriedly bowed. Juniors would never dare to have such thoughts, but since seniors have saved us, we would like to ask for seniors' names so that we can repay you in the future. You are from the god clan. We killed Jiang Yunshuang. Don't you bear any grudge at all? Long Qin looked at the three of them playfully. Well, one of the god clan youths hesitated and said with a smile, we have to be clear about public and private matters, right? As he spoke, he kicked the other two. The other two understood and nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes, yes. Seniors, you have saved us. If we still bear grudges, wouldn't we be repaying kindness with evil? Long Qin was speechless. This was a typical case of hypocrisy. He could clearly see the hatred and murderous intent in the three's eyes, but they still said it in such a dignified manner. However, given their current relationship with the Divine King, they could not be calculative. When you go back, ask around and you will know our names. Hurry up and go. Don't wait for us to turn hostile. Then you won't be able to leave. Qin Feiyang looked at Li Feng. Li Feng waved his hand and a space-time passage appeared in the sky. Thank you, my lords. The 12 people were overjoyed when they saw the space-time passage. If they left on their own, they might fall into the hands of other beast emperors and become slaves halfway. Because the East continent was full of ferocious beasts. It was harder to escape from the eyes and ears of these ferocious beasts than to reach the sky. But with this space-time passage, it was different. They could directly escape from the East continent. After the 12 people left, Mu Qing squatted in front of the Brute King's head and said with a pleasant smile, "Don't be so stubborn. The ultimate meaning of the law of force is just a worldly possession. How can it be compared with your life? As long as you hand it over obediently, I promise to let you go. Get lost." However, the Brute King shouted coldly in return for his patient persuasion. Mu Qing raised his eyebrows and continued patiently, "Is it worth it to give up your life for an ultimate meaning?" Bah! As soon as he finished speaking, the Brute King spat on Mu Qing's face. Mu Qing exploded on the spot. You don't want face, do you? I'll fucking kill you. Calm down, calm down. The corner of Li Feng's mouth twitched. He stepped forward and pulled Mu Qing away. Qin Feiyang and Long Qin could not help but laugh. Don't laugh. Mu Qing glared at the two of them. He wiped the saliva on his face and said angrily, "How disgusting. Go and wash up." Qin Feiyang smiled and waved his hand to send Mu Qing to the Black Tortoise realm. Then, he looked at the Brute King and said, "You're really bold. How dare you humiliate him like this?" The Brute King spat on Qin Feiyang again. Qin Feiyang's eyes and hands were sharp, and he swiftly dodged, and his expression was extremely furious. Qin Dage, send him to the Soul-Sealing Valley. Li Feng raised his eyebrows. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, "The Soul-Sealing Valley is probably useless for a guy like him who is not afraid of death. Even Wang Chuan didn't submit in the Soul-Sealing Valley back then, let alone a proud fierce beast. Then what should we do?" Long Qin was a little impatient. "This guy is a beast. We can't drag him to the street like we did to Jiang Yunshuang and the other two." Li Feng was helpless. He really couldn't think of any good idea to make the Brute King surrender. Slap. Suddenly, a crisp sound of a slap was heard. Li Feng and Long Qin were stunned. They quickly looked at Qin Feiyang. Was this person crazy? He actually slapped himself? And it seemed that the strength was not light. "Qin Dage, are you okay?" Li Feng looked at him with concern. "I actually neglected such an important method," Qin Feiyang whispered. His expression was full of anger. "What method?" Li Feng was surprised. "Puppet technique." Qin Feiyang looked at Li Feng and Long Qin. He looked quite excited and said, puppet technique can turn the other party into a puppet. After the other party becomes a puppet, doesn't that mean they have to do whatever I want them to do? Yes. Li Feng also patted his head. As long as the brute king was turned into a puppet, he could directly order it to extract the ultimate meaning of the law of force. Long Qin also showed a look of realization. He then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "You are indeed a pig's brain. If you had thought of this earlier, how could it be so difficult to deal with Jiang Yunshuang and the others?" Yes, yes, yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. This time there was no refutation. He was indeed a pig's brain. He actually didn't think of such a good method. Puppet technique? Puppet? When the brute king heard this, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. He ran away in panic. Still want to run? Li Feng smiled disdainfully. He stepped in front of the brute king and kicked him. Accompanied by a wail, the brute king immediately smashed at the feet of Qin Feiyang like a dead dog. Chapter 41:12. Qin Feiyang stepped on Barbarian King. The puppet imprint appeared and disappeared into Barbarian King's head like lightning. Although Barbarian King was also a great perfection sovereign, his divine soul had been severely injured, so it was not too difficult to control him. Soon, Qin Feiyang was able to successfully control it. Following closely, Li Feng and Long Qin were looking forward to it. Because if the puppet technique could really work, it would be much more convenient to snatch the ultimate meaning in the future. In other words, as long as the other party was controlled, the ultimate meaning would be easy to obtain. Looking at the trembling Barbarian King, Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Now you know fear? Too late. With a thought, Barbarian King's eyes suddenly became dull, without any emotion, like a piece of wood without consciousness. Greetings, Master. He got up and knelt respectfully at Qin Feiyang's feet, and even his voice sounded a little dull. Strip the ultimate meaning of the law of force. Qin Feiyang said. Yes. Barbarian King respectfully replied. In less than 10 breaths of time, the ultimate meaning of the law of force was stripped and respectfully handed to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly and took the ultimate meaning of the law of force. It was as easy as blowing off dust. He really did not expect that the puppet technique could exert such an effect now. In the future, it would be much easier to snatch the ultimate meaning. If he continued to snatch it unscrupulously, maybe all the 6,000 secret guards could master the will of Heaven Dao. Long Qin asked, "Your puppet technique can do it, then my brother's soul-controlling technique, can't it?" Soul-controlling technique? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and nodded. Yes, Long Chen's soul-controlling technique can also turn the other party into an obedient puppet. At that time, wouldn't it be easier for him to join forces with Long Chen? Sure enough. Reconciling with Long Chen was a very wise choice. Long Qin said, "So us brother and sister don't need to rely on father at all? Can we get enough ultimate mysteries on our own?" Ugh! Qin Feiyang was stunned. Although Long Chen could indeed control others with his soul manipulation technique, the prerequisite was that he had sufficient strength. This was because in order to control it, one had to first cripple the other party's cultivation and severely wound the other party's soul. If he couldn't even defeat the other party, how could he control the other party? You don't want to rely on your father either? Li Feng also looked at Long Qin in surprise. Who doesn't want to rely on their own efforts to make a name for themselves? Besides, are you willing to live under the protection of your parents? Take you bastards for example. Every time you talk about me, you always say that I relied on my father to achieve what I have today. When have you seen my own efforts? Long Qin rolled his eyes at Li Feng. Li Feng smiled awkwardly. He did not expect Long Qin to be so concerned about this matter. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Actually, I envy you." "What do you envy me for?" Long Qin was puzzled. I envy you for living a life where you open your mouth to eat and clothes to wear. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Get lost. Long Qin glared at her fiercely. Would he feel uncomfortable if he did not make fun of her for a day? Wasn't this the same as saying that she was a pampered young lady? Ha, Qin Feiyang smiled. The more time he spent with this woman, the more he felt that she was a little cute. If Fire Dance did not object, and if Long Zun and Ice Dragon agreed, it would be good to be with the white-eyed wolf. However, if that was really the case, then the white-eyed wolf's life would be difficult in the future. Because Fire Dance was already not easy to deal with. With Long Qin, the white-eyed wolf would probably suffer every day. What do we do with this guy? Li Feng pointed at Brute King and asked. I'll read his memory first. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes. Brute King's status was higher than the three-eyed giant ape. Naturally, he knew more things than the three-eyed giant ape. Among them, there was information about the so-called beast sovereign. Time passed breath by breath. Suddenly, terrifying ferocious auras rolled over from all directions. Long Qin and Li Feng were shocked. They looked up at the void around them and saw countless beasts rushing over from all directions. It was like a beast tide, a black mass. Why are there so many of them? Li Feng was surprised. There were many beasts that exuded the aura of a perfected sovereign. It should be the beasts under Brute King who ran over to call for reinforcements. Long Qin's eyes flashed coldly. Previously, many beasts had escaped and she was too lazy to chase after them. Because she did not care at all. However, she did not expect that they would call for so many helpers. However, at best, they could only be regarded as a motley crew. It's them. Brute King is still in the hands of that human. Very soon. The ferocious beasts from all directions rushed over and surrounded Qin Feiyang and the other two. Among them, 15 beasts had the most shocking aura, almost on par with Brute King. It was enough to see. These 15 beasts, like Brute King, were beast emperors from other areas nearby. 15 beast emperors came with countless beasts. If it were the previous 12 people, they would definitely be scared out of their wits. But Long Qin, Li Feng, and Qin Feiyang, would they care? Of course not. When they first entered the Divine Kingdom, the Human Clan, the God Clan, and the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan, the three major clans, gathered all the powerhouses in their clans and joined forces to besiege them. Compared to the three major clans, this beast tide was nothing. Not even 1 in 10,000. It was not worth mentioning at all. From the beginning to the end, Qin Feiyang ignored them and silently read Brute King's memory. Li Feng and Long Qin also acted as if they did not see anything. Presumptuous. Do you know what you are doing? Release Brute King immediately. Otherwise, today, the East Continent will be your burial ground. Seeing the attitude of the 15 beast emperors were furious and shouted with their noses up. Shut up. Li Feng said coldly. Lord Beast Emperors, did you see that? This is too arrogant. They simply don't take us seriously. Humans dare to come to the East Continent and act arrogantly. This is looking down on us. The beasts under Brute King's command roared indignantly. However, Li Feng glared at them, and a group of beasts immediately hid behind the 15 beast emperors, secretly filled with fear. I'll say it one last time. Release Brute King. One of the beast emperors said in a deep voice. It was a black tiger. Its body was more than 10 meters tall, and its body was full of murderous aura. Li Feng raised his eyebrows and said, I'll say it one last time. If you don't shut up, I'll kill all of you together. Bastard. Is there a limit to your arrogance? Even the supremes of the human clan don't dare to be so arrogant in the East Continent. Who do you think you are? The 15 beast emperors were furious. Boom! Terrifying auras erupted one after another. The power of 15 laws also emerged. They were all ordinary laws. But their strength had reached the level of the strongest laws. So many? Not bad, not bad. It's like a cake delivered to my door. Li Feng's eyes lit up. As long as he could control these 15 beast emperors, he could immediately obtain 15 ultimate mysteries of ordinary laws. That would be a huge profit. Turning his eyes slightly, Li Feng looked at Long Qin and bared his teeth. Sister-in-law, are you going to do it, or should I? Sister-in-law? Long Qin looked at Li Feng in shock. Why did he suddenly call her that? Li Feng chuckled and said, haven't you and Brother Wolf already? Before Li Feng finished speaking, Long Qin immediately knocked him on the head and glared fiercely at Li Feng's forehead, saying angrily, what nonsense are you talking about? What relationship do I have with that damn wolf cub? Li Feng touched his forehead and said aggrievedly, then why are you always flirting with us? I thought you were in love with each other. You call that flirting? What kind of eyesight are you talking about? Long Qin's face darkened. Okay. It's my fault, sister-in-law. Seeing Long Qin's face turn cold, Li Feng quickly corrected himself. No, big sister, don't be angry. Long Qin looked helpless. What was this kid thinking about all day long? However, did the usual quarrels between her and the white-eyed wolf really look like flirting? At the thought of this, her cheeks couldn't help but heat up. Then let me do it. Li Feng rubbed his forehead and said, but there was a hint of a sinister smile in his eyes. In fact, he did it on purpose. He deliberately broke the window paper so that the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin could face their true selves as soon as possible. Boom! The next moment. Space-time law, the ultimate mysteries of time law, immediately appeared in the sky, emitting a monstrous divine power. What? 2 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. The expressions of the 15 beast emperors changed drastically. How could it be so strong? Black Tiger roared in shock and anger. You have to think carefully. If you attack us, you will be going against the entire beast race. Idiot. Li Feng shook his head. Do you still understand now? They were not afraid of the beast race at all. If they were afraid, they wouldn't have attacked the 3-eyed giant ape and brute king. The 2 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws charged forward. Run! Following the roars of the 15 beast emperors, the beasts in the surroundings immediately fled in all directions like birds startled by the mere twang of a bow. But these beasts were not valuable at all. Li Feng only had eyes for the 15 beast emperors. Boom! Seeing this, the 15 beast emperors also fought back desperately. On the contrary. In the face of the ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws, they had no ability to fight back at all. They were seriously injured one after another and rolled on the ground below. In the end, they were all captured alive by Li Feng. You can't do this. Our beast race will not let you go. It's not too late to apologize to us now. The 15 beast emperors roared angrily. Noisy. Li Feng stepped forward and kicked each of them, causing them to grimace in pain. I want to see who is so powerful that he dares to act like a tyrant in my East Continent. At this moment, a murderous voice rolled over from the left side of the sky. A monstrous power also surged over. An expert. Li Feng's eyes trembled. He looked up and saw a white flood dragon with a terrifying aura streaking across the sky like lightning. Dragon Sovereign. The 15 beast emperors looked at the flood dragon and couldn't help but be shocked. What? Dragon Sovereign? Long Qin was stunned. He looked up at the flood dragon and frowned. How can this thing be called Dragon Sovereign? How dare you speak so rudely to Lord Dragon Sovereign? The 15 beast emperors shouted angrily. Long Qin glanced at them and sneered. Not everyone is qualified to use the name Dragon Sovereign. Li Feng, go and destroy it. Okay. Li Feng snickered. The reason why Long Qin was so angry was obviously because the title Long Zun offended her. Because her mother was also called Dragon Sovereign. If one were to say that this so-called revered dragon was a genuine mystical dragon, it would be acceptable. But the key point was that it was just a flood dragon. A flood dragon dared to call itself Dragon Sovereign? How dare it? Chapter 41:13. Crazy, crazy. They are really crazy, how dare they be rude to Lord Long Zun. The 15 beast emperors looked at the two of them in a daze. They must have eaten a leopard's guts. In fact, the man named Li Feng did not hesitate or fear and directly charged toward Long Zun. Looking at his posture, he really wanted to cut off Long Zun's head. At the same time, seeing Li Feng's action, the white flood dragon was furious. As a beast venerable of the beast race, its status was very high. A mere human actually dared to be so presumptuous. Boom! A power of law surged out. It was one of the strongest laws, the destruction law. Boom! The ultimate profound meaning appeared out of nowhere. The destruction heavenly eye was like the eye of God, suspended in the air, exuding a destructive power. The ultimate profound meaning of the strongest law, Li Feng's eyes flickered. Wasn't this prey that took the initiative to come to him? Looking at Li Feng's eyes, the flood dragon's heart could not help but skip a beat. Why did this gaze make it a little flustered? Hee, Li Feng bared his teeth, and the two ultimate profound meanings of the spacetime law and time law appeared, carrying the power to destroy the world. Boom! The destruction heavenly eye shattered on the spot. But in this regard, the flood dragon's expression was not the slightest bit fearful, but full of disdain. It turns out that you have mastered two ultimate profound meanings of the strongest laws. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant in my East continent. However, in front of me, merely two ultimate profound meanings are not qualified to be arrogant. It roared, its aura was like a rainbow. One by one, the power of law appeared. Among them, there were 4 ultimate laws and 2 ordinary laws. The next moment, a shocking scene appeared. These 6 laws had all evolved into ultimate profound meanings. In other words, this so-called Long Zun had mastered 6 ultimate profound meanings. Although there was no heavenly Tao will, it was still shocking enough. Because this strength was already considered a true peak existence. Kneel down and repent for me. The flood dragon's voice was stern, and the 6 ultimate profound meanings crushed with irresistible force. Li Feng spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face instantly turned pale. However, Li Feng laughed instead. 4 ultimate profundities of supreme laws, 2 ultimate profundities of ordinary laws, and 15 beast emperors. That was a total of more than 20 ultimate profundities. He had such a great harvest as soon as he arrived in the East continent. It really felt like a dream. However, the flood dragon frowned when it saw Li Feng laughing. Wait a minute. Suddenly, a hint of bewilderment crept into its eyes. Why does this person look so familiar? Although Long Qin had mentioned Li Feng's name before and the 15 beast emperors had heard it, the Jiao dragon had not heard it. However, the 15 beast emperors were far inferior to the venerable beast in terms of strength and status. In addition, the East continent was ill-informed, so they had no idea about the existence of Qin Feiyang and the others. The flood dragon should have known, but due to its anger, it didn't think of it. But at this moment, names suddenly appeared in its mind. These were the names that struck fear into the hearts of the human clan, God clan, and purple gold divine dragon clan of the divine kingdom. The beast sovereign of the beast clan is only a so-so. Li Feng snickered. The true bodies of the 3 puppets appeared. Boom! The ultimate meaning of the 2 supreme laws were activated again. The 3 true bodies of the puppets, plus his true body, that was 8 ultimate meanings, which had already surpassed the flood dragons. This is, the flood dragon's eyes trembled. Could it be the 3,000 incarnations? No. This seems to be. A piece of information appeared in its mind. It was said that in the sky cloud realm, there was a young man named Li Feng who had a supreme divine power that could summon 3 true bodies of the puppets. The strength and means of these 3 true bodies of the puppets were no different from his true body. Once. Not only the prodigies of the divine kingdom, the human clan, and the purple gold divine dragon clan, but even the elder of the purple gold divine dragon clan, Elder Wu, had suffered in the hands of this young man named Li Feng. And it was said that the true bodies of the puppets were very similar to the 3,000 incarnations. However, the 3,000 incarnations could summon 3,000 incarnations, while the true bodies of the puppets could only summon 3 puppets. But this was terrifying enough. Because the 3 true bodies of the puppets were equivalent to increasing Li Feng's strength by 3 times. At this point, the flood dragon's eyes trembled, and it said in shock and anger, "You are the prodigy of the sky cloud realm, Li Feng." Li Feng looked at the flood dragon in surprise. If the names of Qin Feiyang, Long Chen, the madman, and the white-eyed wolf had already spread to the east continent, then there was nothing to say. After all, the strength shown by these people had almost reached the point of defying the heavens. However, he, Li Feng, believed that his strength was only average. But now, the other party could recognize his identity. His name, Li Feng, had also become famous in the divine kingdom. It was a little surprising. Yes. Li Feng nodded. The flood dragon was stunned. He was really a prodigy of the sky cloud realm. Didn't they say that these people were now in the West Continent, the North Continent, and the South Continent, looking for trouble with the human clan, the god clan, and the purple gold divine dragon clan? Why did they suddenly appear in the East Continent? Wait. Since this person was Li Feng, then the other man and woman, the flood dragon immediately looked at Long Qin and Qin Feiyang, and it was as if a bolt from the blue had struck its head. Qin Feiyang. No. This was impossible. It must be a hallucination. The flood dragon shook its head in disbelief and blinked hard. When it looked at Qin Feiyang again, its expression immediately became dull. It was actually this person. He looked exactly the same as the legend. Immediately after, it quivered, turned its head and began to flee. The 15 beast emperors and the countless beasts around were all dumbfounded. The dignified beast venerable chose to flee? What was going on? Who exactly were these 3 people? Even the beast venerable was so panicked. Li Feng was also stunned, and then he sneered. He activated the moment of time and chased after them like lightning. Long Qin didn't make a move. Because she believed that Li Feng's strength was more than enough to deal with such a beast venerable. How could this be? It was also at this moment. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and frowned slightly. What's wrong? Long Qin looked at him in puzzlement. The real ruler of the beast race is actually a person called. When Qin Feiyang said this, he looked at Long Qin and frowned. Dragon God guy. Dragon God? Long Qin was stunned. That's right. Do you still remember that your father was also called the Dragon God by later generations? Qin Feiyang said with a strange expression. What do you mean? Are you suspecting that the Dragon God of the beast race is my father? Long Qin raised her eyebrows. No. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Needless to say, the Dragon God of the beast race couldn't be the Ice Dragon. Because if it was really the Ice Dragon, would the ruler of the divine kingdom dare to order the beast race? After all, the strength of the Ice Dragon was above the ruler of the divine kingdom. Then what's with the look in your eyes? Long Qin looked at Qin Feiyang unhappily. I'm just thinking that the beast race of the divine kingdom is quite fated with your family. Qin Feiyang laughed. Long Qin's mother was Long Zun, and her father was the dragon god. But now, the beast race also had Long Zun and dragon god. There's still fate? Can you speak? With just these trash, it's simply a humiliation to our family. Long Qin snorted coldly. Don't speak too early. Although that Long Zun just now was a flood dragon, the dragon god of the beast race is a real divine dragon, and like your mother, a holy dragon. Qin Feiyang said. Holy dragon, Long Qin frowned. What? You're also a divine dragon? The 15 beast emperors looked at Long Qin in surprise. They couldn't sense the aura of a divine dragon at all. Shut up. Long Qin glared at them. Of course, they couldn't sense it because she had sealed the aura of a divine dragon. Even if they met a divine dragon of the same race, they wouldn't be able to see through her true body. Long Qin looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, what else did you find out? A lot. Under the dragon god, there are 20 beast gods. These 20 beast gods each have mastered the will of heaven, and their strength is comparable to the sovereigns of the human race and the god race. And under these 20 beast gods, there are many beast sovereigns like the flood dragon. The various beast sovereigns lead countless beast emperors, such as these small fries. Qin Feiyang pointed at the 15 beast emperors and laughed. We're small fries? The 15 beast emperors immediately glared at Qin Feiyang angrily. Of course. Whether it's beast emperors or beast sovereigns, there are strong and weak ones. For example, the flood dragon has mastered 6 ultimate mysteries, and his strength among the beast sovereigns is not bad. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. The 15 beast emperors next to him were even more displeased when they heard this. 6 ultimate mysteries is only not bad? Can you be any more arrogant? The dragon god's strength is also top-notch among the beast sovereigns. 20 beast sovereigns, Long Qin murmured and nodded. They are indeed stronger than the human race and the god race. Because the human race and the god race only had 10 beast sovereigns. And the beast race had 20 beast sovereigns. That was double. It was no wonder that the Lord and the others were so wary of the beast race. Qin Feiyang laughed. It seems that we won't be too bored in the East Continent in the future. Long Qin couldn't help but roll his eyes when he heard this. 1 dragon god and 20 beast gods, how terrifying was this force? Yet, this fellow was acting as if nothing had happened. In fact, he even had an expectant look on his face. One had to know. Even if she now had the will of the heavenly Tao, she didn't dare to face these beast race powerhouses head-on. Because with her strength alone, the most she could do was fight against a beast god. At this moment, in the distance, deafening sounds of battle could be heard. Obviously, Li Feng and the dragon were fighting. Qin Feiyang looked up and glanced at the 15 beast emperors next to him. Things like ultimate profound meanings, the more the better. Immediately, slave seals appeared one by one and sank into the heads of the beast emperors, turning them all into puppets. Soon, ultimate mysteries appeared one after another. Qin Feiyang kept all of them with a smile. This was really a place with good feng shui. Why don't you take a look in the mirror? Long Qin looked at him mockingly. Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked at her in confusion. Long Qin said disdainfully, you are exactly like a nouveau riche now. Ah. Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. A nouveau riche was also good. Chapter 41-14. Battlefield. Li Feng and the flood dragon fought fiercely. The void and land in all directions had been completely destroyed. Countless beasts were affected and died under the fluctuations. However, although the flood dragon was stronger than Li Feng, who had the puppet real body, was far more powerful than the flood dragon. After a while, the flood dragon was suppressed and beaten. Shocking wounds kept appearing on its body. Blood spilled like a waterfall. Swoosh. At this moment, Qin Feiyang and Long Qin rushed over. Barbarian King and a group of beast emperors were also brought over. However, because their ultimate profound meaning had been taken away, their cultivation had fallen to the perfected dominator realm. However, Qin Feiyang had already used the life law to help them repair their sea of energy. Dragon Sovereign, right? Let me give you a surprise. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Barbarian King and a group of beast emperors immediately flew towards the flood dragon. What do you want to do? The flood dragon was surprised. Li Feng seemed to understand Qin Feiyang's intention and quickly retreated to the side. Very quickly. A group of beast emperors rushed in front of the flood dragon. Following closely. Under the flood dragon's horrified gaze, a group of beast emperors actually self-destructed one after another. Was this a surprise? It was obviously a shock. The flood dragon stood under the terrifying fluctuations, its eyes full of surprise. Why would these beast emperors be willing to self-destruct their bodies? Could it be, suddenly, it thought of the situation when Qin Feiyang brought a group of beast emperors here just now. At that time, the eyes of the group of beast emperors were empty and lifeless. It couldn't capture any emotional color. That's right. The other party must have used some method to control them and make them self-destruct. At the thought of this, the flood dragon couldn't help but feel its scalp go numb. If it also fell into the hands of these people, wouldn't it also end up like this? It suddenly quivered and turned to flee. A group of beast emperors was only at the perfected dominator realm. Whether it was the self-destruction of the flood dragon or Li Feng, it didn't pose a fatal threat. So, at the same time as the flood dragon fled, Li Feng smiled and activated instant time. He and the three puppet real bodies instantly stood in front of the flood dragon. Get lost. The dragon roared. Who do you think you are to make me scram? Li Feng's face was filled with disdain. 8 ultimate profundities of supreme laws shattered the sky and blasted out. Rumble. The flood dragon let out a miserable howl. Not only was its huge body torn apart on the spot, blood staining the world, but its soul was also fatally injured and instantly weakened to the extreme. Immediately after, Li Feng's oppressive aura rolled out, firmly imprisoning the flood dragon. Don't kill me. I am the sovereign beast of the beast clan. If you kill me, you will definitely anger the dragon god and the various beast gods. At that time, even if you escape back to the sky cloud realm, my beast race will still hunt you down. The flood dragon roared in horror. We've never thought of escaping. You beasts don't have the power to make us choose to flee back to the sky cloud realm. Qin Feiyang stepped forward and chuckled at the flood dragon. Don't be too arrogant. The flood dragon roared. We're just that arrogant. Besides, aren't you Long Zun? What are you afraid of? Longqin's face was full of ridicule. This kind of trash deserved to be called Long Zun? It was simply ridiculous. Li Feng grinned and said, Qin Dage, this guy's soul has been severely injured by me. You can control it at any time. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. If this continued, maybe in the future, all 6,000 shadow guards would really be able to master the will of the heavens. Under his command, there would be a total of 6,000 experts who had mastered the will of the heavens. This kind of thing, just thinking about it, he couldn't help but be excited. The puppet technique was activated. The control was completed smoothly. And it was also successfully turned into a puppet. Then, it was time to let the flood dragon peel off the ultimate meaning. He thought that everything would be as smooth as before, but just as the first ultimate meaning was about to be peeled off, the flood dragon suddenly roared. It forcibly broke the constraints of the puppet and restored its own consciousness. How is this possible? Qin Feiyang and Li Feng were dumbfounded on the spot. Longqin also had a look of disbelief. It had already become a puppet, but it could still rely on its strong will to restore consciousness? What are you doing to me? After the flood dragon regained consciousness, it glared at Qin Feiyang and the other two. A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes, and he once again deprived the flood dragon of its consciousness and turned it into a puppet. Don't even think about it. The flood dragon roared. Its consciousness was restored again. Li Feng was dumbfounded. Why could the flood dragon break free from the constraints of the puppet technique? Long Qin frowned and said, "It should be because its strength and will are stronger than Barbarian King and the other beast emperors. Because apart from this, there was no other explanation." Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead and said weakly, "It seems that I have to ask your big brother for help." The soul control technique was more advanced than the puppet technique. Maybe it could control this kind of expert who had mastered the ultimate meaning of the strongest law. "Let me go. I beg you." The flood dragon was terrified. They were simply a group of demons. "Okay. But the premise is that you have to hand over all your ultimate meaning." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. "Originally, you were coveting my ultimate meaning." The flood dragon came to a realization and looked at the three of them ferociously. It sneered, "Don't daydream." "Humph." Qin Feiyang snorted and completely imprisoned it, and they entered the black tortoise realm together. The herb field. Long Chen sat cross-legged under a fortune tree, his eyes closed and his expression calm. It's not good to disturb him." Li Feng was a little hesitant. "What are you afraid of?" Long Qin went forward and patted Long Chen's shoulder, shouting, "Brother, wake up." "Ah." Long Chen opened his eyes and looked at Long Qin suspiciously. Qin Feiyang and Li Feng looked at each other, speechless. Having a sister like this was a headache. Long Qin grabbed Long Chen's arm and forced him up, and said with a smile, "There's something I need your help with." "What is it?" Long Chen thought it was something big and looked nervous. In his opinion, if it was nothing big, he would not be forcefully awakened from his seclusion. "Control it. Make it obediently hand over its ultimate meaning." Long Chen pointed at the flood dragon that was suppressed at the side. "What do you mean?" Long Chen was a little confused, and looked at Qin Feiyang and Li Feng. Qin Feiyang smiled and briefly explained the situation. "So that's how it is." Long Chen nodded, and looked at Long Qin helplessly, and said, "This kind of small matter, can't you wait for me to come out of seclusion?" "Who knows how long you'll be in seclusion?" Long Qin pursed his lips. Long Chen's mouth twitched, and he said angrily, "You're always so careless. I think you're becoming more and more like a white-eyed wolf." "I'm like him?" "Don't talk nonsense, okay?" Long Qin was immediately dissatisfied. Long Chen rubbed his forehead weakly, looked at the flood dragon, and then looked at Qin Feiyang, and asked, "You mean, we're already in the East Continent?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "The East Continent is the territory of the Beast Tribe and the Sea Tribe. What are you doing here?" Long Chen was puzzled. Because he had been in seclusion all this time, he did not know what had happened during this time. "We're here to suppress the Beast Tribe and the Sea Tribe." Qin Feiyang smiled, and then explained the position of the Beast Tribe and the Sea Tribe in detail. "I see." Long Chen was a smart person, and he could roughly understand it with a little mention, not to mention Qin Feiyang's detailed explanation. "Okay. I'll try. But I can't guarantee it. After all, this flood dragon has mastered the ultimate meaning of the ultimate law, and its psychological quality and willpower are far from comparable to other beast emperors. And this is something I've never tried before." Long Chen said. "Just try your best." Qin Feiyang smiled. If it really did not work, he could think of other ways. Anyway, the flood dragon had fallen into their hands, and they had plenty of time to deal with it in the future. Long Chen formed a seal with both hands, and a soul control seal appeared. This seal was blood red, as if it was condensed from blood. When the flood dragon saw this, it could not help but panic. Wait, Qin Feiyang suddenly remembered that the flood dragon was still controlled by the puppet technique, but before he could finish, the soul control seal entered the flood dragon's consciousness, and directly shattered the puppet technique and replaced it. Puff! The puppet technique was shattered. Qin Feiyang also spat out a mouthful of blood. Long Chen was shocked and asked, "You're still controlling it?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled bitterly. "Then why didn't you say so earlier? I thought you had already released your control over it." Long Chen smiled apologetically. "It's okay." Qin Feiyang waved his hand. This kind of injury was nothing to worry about. But it could be seen that the soul control technique was indeed much more advanced than the puppet technique. At the same time, the flood dragon that was controlled by Long Chen did not have any changes in its eyes and demeanor, and was no different from ordinary people. But its attitude toward Long Chen had changed greatly, and it was very respectful. Long Chen said, "Strip your 6 ultimate mysteries and give them to me." "Yes, Master." The flood dragon responded respectfully, and immediately began to strip the ultimate mysteries. Qin Feiyang, Li Feng, and Long Qin looked at each other, and they were also looking forward to it. "What's the situation? Why are you all here too?" At this time, Mu Qing heard the commotion and ran over, looking at the 3 of them suspiciously. "Shoo!" Li Feng made a gesture to keep quiet. Mu Qing looked at the flood dragon with a puzzled face. But soon, his body trembled, and his eyes shone with green light. Because he saw that the flood dragon had stripped an ultimate mystery of the law of destruction. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 looked at each other, and there was unconcealable joy on their faces. In comparison, Long Qin's expression had a trace of pride. It was as if she was saying to Qin Feiyang, Li Feng, and Mu Qin, "Did you see that? No matter how strong you are, how can you be stronger than my brother?" Time passed quietly. Very soon, the 6 ultimate mysteries were all stripped. Not only did the flood dragon not resist, but it also took the initiative to give the 6 ultimate mysteries to Long Chen. "Give it to him." Long Chen pointed at Qin Feiyang. The flood dragon was very obedient, and it turned around to give it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang smiled, took the 6 ultimate mysteries, and cast a grateful look at Long Chen. Long Chen waved his hand and smiled, helplessly looked at Long Qin, and then at Qin Feiyang, and said, "Next time you encounter this kind of thing, suppress the other party first, and wait for me to come out of seclusion to deal with it once and for all." Chapter 41:15. Qin Feiyang also looked at Long Qin in amusement and nodded. "Okay, then we won't disturb you. Take this dragon with us and prepare to read its memory." "Okay." Long Chen nodded. Just as Qin Feiyang was about to leave, he suddenly called out to Qin Feiyang and transmitted his voice. "Help me take care of Qin, when I'm not around. This girl is a bit willful, please be more tolerant." Long Chen transmitted his voice. "Don't worry. Now, she's also my sister." Qin Feiyang faintly smiled as he led the others away. Long Chen also smiled. It was this girl's fortune to have Qin Feiyang as her brother. Then, he removed the control on the dragon. After the control was removed, the dragon suddenly realized that it had lost all its ultimate mysteries. "You bastards, I curse you to die a horrible death." Curses rang out incessantly. But what followed was Li Feng's violent beating. The tea garden. It was very different now. As soon as they walked into the tea garden, they could smell the fragrance of various divine teas, which made them feel refreshed. Fire Lotus stood alone in the tea garden, carefully taking care of each divine tea tree, especially the Bodhi divine tea, which she cared for like a treasure. "You've worked hard." Qin Feiyang entered the tea garden and walked in front of Fire Lotus. Looking at the sweat on Fire Lotus's forehead, he felt very guilty. "No." Fire Lotus shook her head. A warm smile appeared on her face. "It was just taking care of dozens of tea trees, how hard could it be?" Qin Feiyang used his sleeve to wipe the sweat on Fire Lotus's forehead. Whether it was Fire Lotus or the Mermaid Princess, he had always silently remembered their kindness to him. Immediately, Qin Feiyang handed the 4 ultimate profundities of the ultimate laws to Mu Qing. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Mu Qing said with a grin. If you want to be polite, then give it to Big Sister Fire Lotus. Li Feng looked at him mockingly. That's not impossible. Mu Qing was very generous now. Fire Lotus laughed. How would I dare to snatch it from someone with the strongest war soul like you? Mu Qing was stunned. She shook her head and said, You must be laughing at me. Since when? I'm really happy to see you all so united and harmonious. Fire Lotus glanced at them with a smile on her face. Mu Qing and Long Qin looked at each other. This woman was really gentle and virtuous. If it were another man, he would definitely hide it like a treasure. But this guy, Qin Feiyang, was clearly right beside him and within easy reach, but he kept pushing it away. She really didn't know which stinky man would take advantage of her in the future. However, there was nothing he could do. Feelings couldn't be forced. Qin Feiyang patted Fire Lotus's head and smiled dotingly. Don't worry, one day in the future, I will let you, Pei Tianhong, and everyone here master the will of heaven. Although he and Fire Lotus were siblings, it didn't mean that Fire Lotus wasn't his treasure. Whoever wanted to marry Fire Lotus in the future would have to go through him. Then I'll look forward to it. Fire Lotus smiled sweetly. Just wait patiently. Qin Feiyang smiled confidently. If it weren't for Long Chen, he wouldn't dare to make such a promise. But it was different now. In the future, he would be in charge of hunting, and Long Chen would be in charge of stripping. This way, it would no longer be an extravagant hope. After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Qing and said, We don't need the all-seeing eye for now. Why don't you go into seclusion to comprehend the laws and fuse the ultimate profound? Okay. When you need the all-seeing eye, just look for me. Mu Qing nodded. Of course I won't be polite with you. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. Mu Qing laughed heartily, and then, with the ultimate profound of the four strongest laws, broke through the air like lightning. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and controlled the dragon again. It was easier to control now. Because it had lost the 6 laws, the dragon's cultivation had fallen to the imperishable realm. Immediately, he silently read the dragon's memory. Long Qin had nothing to do, so he followed Fire Lotus around the tea garden and chatted. Li Feng stayed by Qin Feiyang's side the whole time. Although there was no danger in the Black Tortoise realm, he was the same. Time passed in a flash. Half a month passed. This time, he read the Flood Dragon's memories seriously. As for the three-eyed giant ape and barbarian king, because of the time problem, he could only read a rough idea. Moreover, as a beast lord, the dragon knew the situation of the beast race and the sea race much better than the three-eyed giant ape and barbarian king. So in comparison, the dragon's memory was more valuable. After reading the dragon's memory, he also had a better understanding of the strength of the beast race and the sea race. If the two races joined forces, they would not be inferior to the human race, the god race, and the purple-gold divine dragon race. Especially the sea race. Their overall strength seemed to be stronger than the beast race. But compared to these, there was one thing that Qin Feiyang was particularly concerned about. Neptune and the dragon god seemed to have a very close relationship with the central dynasty. However, the dragon's status in the beast race was not high enough, so it had never had any direct contact with the central dynasty. In short, if he wanted to investigate the central dynasty, he had to start with Neptune and the dragon god. However, the strength of these two people was extremely terrifying. They were not easy to deal with. When Qin Feiyang opened his eyes, he saw that Li Feng had been standing beside him the whole time. Qin Feiyang was immediately moved. This kid, other than doing a lot of evil things with the blood ancestor, was actually quite kind. After erasing the dragon's divine soul, Qin Feiyang gave the dragon's divine body to the Fire Lotus. Although the dragon's laws were taken away, the essence of the dragon's body was enough to be called a treasure in the eyes of ordinary people, so it could be left for the beings of the Black Tortoise realm. What important information do you have? Long Qin asked curiously. Too much. I can't finish it in a short time. But there is one thing that we can confirm now. The sea race and the beast race are not on good terms with the human race, the god race, and the purple gold divine dragon race. Especially the beast race and the purple gold divine dragon race. The ruler of the beast race, the dragon god, as a divine dragon, has always been unhappy with the purple gold divine dragon race. Ever since your father and the sky-swallowing beast took the ruler of the divine kingdom to the Nether King's hell, the sea race and the beast race have sent their subordinates to the West Continent, South Continent, and North Continent to monitor the movements of the three races. Qin Feiyang said. It can't be. Long Qin was shocked and frowned. So, the ruler of the divine kingdom doesn't trust the divine king and the others? Yes. Monitoring the movements of the three races is the order that the ruler gave to Neptune and the dragon god. And he gave them enough power to kill. If the divine king, the ruler, or the sovereign of the human race dares to act rashly, they will kill first and report later. Qin Feiyang said. Long Qin heard this and shook his head. I really feel bad for the ruler and the others. They worked so hard for the ruler, but in the end, they got such a reward. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and looked at Li Feng. Go to the North Continent immediately and tell the great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers about this. Tell them to tell the ruler, the divine king, and the sovereign of the human race to be careful in the future. It's best to check the people around them. You mean, there might be spies of the sea race and the beast lord lurking around them? Li Feng was surprised. Although I didn't find any relevant information in the dragon's memory, I can't rule out this possibility. After all, the dragon's status isn't high, so it can't know the decisions of the dragon god and the beast gods. Qin Feiyang said. Okay. I'll go right away. Li Feng nodded. Show them what you've recorded. Qin Feiyang added and sent Li Feng out of the Black Tortoise realm. Li Feng immediately opened a space-time passage and left. During the conversation, Fire Lotus had already brewed tea. It was a kind of divine tea. Qin Feiyang took a sip and enjoyed the aftertaste. Then, he looked at Long Qin and Fire Lotus and said with a smile, "This ruler has helped us again." What do you mean? The two women were a little confused. Think about it. He asked Neptune and the dragon god to monitor the movements of the three races. If the ruler, the divine king, and the sovereign of the human race find out about this, how will they react? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. Long Qin thought for a while and said, they will definitely be disappointed, bitterly disappointed, and even angry. Yes. Needless to say, the ruler is already on our side. And the divine king and the sovereign of the human race are hesitating. When Li Feng tells them about this, they might make a choice directly. Even if they don't make a choice directly, they will definitely be more inclined to us in their hearts. Qin Feiyang smiled. Makes sense. Fire Lotus nodded. So, trust is very important in the relationship between people. Just wait. We are getting closer and closer to the success of our plan. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. This ruler was really something. It was clearly a good hand, but he played it to a pulp. Chapter 41:16. As the beast supremacy of the beast race, the death of the Jiao dragon caused quite a stir in the East Continent. The other beast supremacies were all shocked and confused. Who had the guts to come to the East Continent and cause trouble? Even the beast gods above were alarmed. In a place called Tianpeng Mountain, there were countless ferocious beasts here. But in the core area, not even a mosquito could be found. The ferocious beasts nearby regarded this place as a forbidden area. However, the vegetation in the mountain was extremely dense. In one of them, the dense qi had turned into clouds that lingered between the heavens and earth. In the depths of the clouds, there was a huge bird's nest, That's right. That was the bird's nest. But the difference was that this bird's nest was extremely luxurious. It was built with spirit veins and crystal veins. And around the bird's nest was inlaid with golden silk. It was made from numerous golden threads, and it was dazzling and resplendent. It seemed extremely noble and luxurious. The size of the bird's nest was comparable to several football fields. And in the center of the bird's nest, there was a huge golden bird. Its body was more than 100 feet long, and its feathers looked as if they were made of gold. It was extremely dazzling. This was one of the 20 beast gods of the beast race, Tian Peng. At this moment, although Tian Peng was lying on the bird's nest, its eyes were looking outside the nest. There were more than a dozen ferocious beasts crawling in the void. These ferocious beasts were almost all divine beasts. There were fire wands, black cheelants, ice phoenixes, black dragons, and so on. The aura they emitted was extremely terrifying. But at this moment, they were all trembling in fear when facing Tian Peng, as if they were treading on thin ice. Preposterous. Someone dared to break into the East Continent and kill the beast supremacy under Tian Peng. I give you 3 days to find out their identity and origin. If you can't complete the task, then there's no value in keeping you alive. Tian Peng said. There was a ruthless coldness in its words. Yes. The divine beasts answered respectfully and immediately got up and rushed to the territory ruled by the Jiao dragon. A storm began in the East Continent. At the same time, on the Divine Island, on the Supreme Mountain, something was also happening. The Divine Island. A god race expert found the Divine King, bowed and said, "My lord, a clansman has reported that 3 of our clansmen have just escaped from the East Continent." Escaped from the East Continent? The Divine King was sipping his tea. When he heard this, he couldn't help but be taken aback. Yes. It is said that these 3 collateral family members have been enslaved by a beast emperor called Barbarian King in the East Continent for many years. They have suffered a lot. There are also 9 humans who were enslaved by Barbarian King. The expert from the God clan said. Sigh. It's not like you don't know what the beast race and the sea race are like. They are hostile to the god race, the human race, and even the purple gold divine dragon race. Enslaving our clansmen is nothing new. I'm afraid that many of our people are still suffering in the Eastern Continent. It's just that we don't know about it. The Divine King sighed. As the ruler of the god race, she should have been very angry when she heard this. But now, her heart was filled with helplessness. This was also a kind of sorrow. If the enslaved clansmen could send her a distress signal, she could send people to rescue them. But usually, the sacred voice stone of those enslaved by the beast race would be shattered immediately, so they couldn't send a distress signal. The Eastern Continent was the territory of the beast race and the sea race. They couldn't just go there for a stroll. Even if they wanted to, Neptune, the dragon god, wouldn't allow it. Moreover, with the strength of Neptune and the dragon god, even the monarch, the divine king, and the paragon of the human race had to be wary of them. It was no exaggeration to say that. If there wasn't anything important, the monarch and the other 2 giants couldn't casually step into the Eastern Continent. The expert from the god clan couldn't help but sigh. Then he said, although we are used to this kind of thing, the situation this time is really strange. Strange? The Divine King was bewildered. How was this strange? The expert from the god clan swallowed and said with difficulty, they were able to escape the Eastern Continent this time because of Qin Feiyang and his group. What? Because of Qin Feiyang and his group? The Divine King was stunned. These guys really went to the Eastern Continent? That was too fast. They were still negotiating with her last night, and in the blink of an eye, they were already in the Eastern Continent. Yes. It said that Qin Feiyang saved them, and he personally opened the portal and sent them back to the Eastern Continent. The expert from the god clan nodded. Is the news true? The divine king frowned. It's absolutely true. The expert from the God clan said. The divine king's face was calm, but there was a hint of a smile in his eyes. He knew that it was the God clan who saved her. It seemed that Qin Feiyang was indeed sincere about the cooperation. However, the expert from the God clan didn't think so. Instead, a cold light flashed in his eyes as he looked at the divine king. Now that they have appeared in the eastern continent, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. The divine king was stunned. He asked, what opportunity? When they enter the eastern continent, they will definitely turn the eastern continent upside down. The Beast clan and the Sea clan in the eastern continent have always ignored the divine kingdom. This time, Qin Feiyang and his group took the initiative to attack the eastern continent, which is undoubtedly a fuse. When the Sea clan and the Beast clan are enraged, we can join forces with the Sea clan and the Beast clan to kill this group of people. The expert from the God clan spoke with undisguised murderous intent in his eyes. The divine king's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that what Qin Feiyang and his group had done to the God clan during this period of time had angered the people of the God clan. That put her in a difficult position. Now, with the help of Qin Feiyang, she had unlocked all the doors of potential and was considering cooperating with Qin Feiyang. But at this moment, judging from the attitude of the expert in front of her toward Qin Feiyang and his group, it seemed that even if she agreed to cooperate, it wouldn't go so smoothly. Lord? Seeing that the divine king was silent, the expert from the God clan looked at her in confusion. The divine king came back to his senses and shook his head. Although Qin Feiyang and his group have hurt the God clan, the Sea clan and the Beast clan have also hurt the God clan. The expert from the God clan was stunned. What did he mean? This is not a trivial matter. When the 10 sovereigns come out of seclusion, I will discuss with them and then make a decision. You can leave now. Also, keep an eye on the situation in the eastern continent. The divine king waved his hand. Yes. The expert from the God clan answered respectfully and didn't dare to say anything more. He turned around and left the hall. The Beast clan, the Sea clan, Qin Feiyang, the divine king murmured, feeling quite annoyed. Buzz. Suddenly, the voice of the divine voice-transmitting stone sounded. The divine king froze and took out the divine voice-transmitting stone. The ruler's figure quickly appeared and looked at the godly king. Without wasting any time, he said seriously, "Come to Mount Supreme immediately. I have something important to discuss with you." "I'll be right there." The divine king nodded and didn't ask any more questions. Because it was rare to see the king so serious. Mount Supreme. In a simple hall. The king and the human clan supremacy sat opposite each other. The king lowered his head and his face was pale. At the same time, there seemed to be a trace of anger. Opposite. The human clan supremacy looked at the king with a puzzled face. Swoosh. Soon, the divine king appeared in front of the hall. Seeing that there was no one around, he walked into the hall with a trace of suspicion in his eyes. He looked at the human clan supremacy and said with a smile, "Isn't there usually someone guarding outside? How come I don't see anyone now?" The human clan supremacy said, "The king asked me to send them away." Send them away? The divine king was slightly stunned. He walked to the side of the tea table. When he saw the king's expression, his heart trembled. Did something big really happen? The king waved his hand, and the door of the hall closed and set up a soundproof barrier. Seeing this scene, the human clan supremacy and the divine king were even more puzzled. Isn't he being too careful? Let me show you a video. The king took out the divine voice-transmitting stone. An image immediately appeared in the void next to him. The people shown in the image were Li Feng, Boss Ji, and the others. The divine king and Boss Ji looked at each other and looked up at the image suspiciously. What did you say? Before the ruler left, he asked the sea race and the beast race to monitor the movements of the three races. Boss G looked at Li Feng in surprise. That's right. This is what Qin Dage learned from reading the memories of the dragon sovereign using the puppet technique. Li Feng nodded. Preposterous. Does the ruler not trust us that much? Boss G and the others were furious. Also, Qin Dage is worried that there are spies of the sea race and the beast race lurking around the king, the divine king, and the human clan supremacy, so he asked me to tell you to be careful in the future. Li Feng said again. Bastard. Boss G clenched his hands. The purple gold divine dragon clan had been working hard for the divine kingdom for generations, but what they got in return was the ruler's distrust and surveillance. Also, we recorded a video in the East Continent. Li Feng took out the divine voice transmitting stone and showed the video of the barbarian king abusing the 12 slaves. Inside the hall, the divine king and the human clan supremacy's eyes were full of anger after watching this video. No wonder the king was so careful. It turned out that he was worried that there were spies of the sea race and the beast race around them. The barbarian king enslaved 3 collateral members of the god race. I've heard about this. But what I didn't expect was that the barbarian king abused them like this. He doesn't take the god race seriously at all. The divine king's face was gloomy. There was a saying that one had to look at the master before beating a dog. What did the beast race think of him, the divine king, by doing this? Sigh. The human clan supremacy also sighed deeply. He looked at the two and said, the 9 members of the human clan have returned and have already sent someone to report this to me. To be honest, I'm really angry. It's not just the human clan and the god race. Even some of the purple gold divine dragons were enslaved by the beast race and the sea race. I really don't understand. Why can the beast race and the sea race freely enter the south, north, and west continents, but the creatures of the 3 continents have to be abused like this when they enter the east continent? The king's eyes were also full of anger. Isn't it simple? Isn't it because the ruler is supporting the sea race and the beast race? The divine king snorted. This is unfair to us. What's more hateful is that the ruler sent them to spy on us. He might even have planted spies around us. Tell me, can the 3 major races just sit around and wait for death? The divine king looked gloomily at the divine king and the human clan supremacy. Chapter 41:17. No. The divine king clenched his fists. She could tolerate enslaving the collateral members of the god race. But spying on her, even planting spies around her, was something she absolutely could not tolerate. Then what do you want to do? Betray the divine kingdom? The human race supremacy looked at the two and frowned. The monarch looked at the human race supremacy and smiled. Supremacy, don't you think of anything when you see Li Feng with Grandpa and the others? The human race supremacy was stunned. Suddenly, his body shook. He stood up and stared at the monarch in shock. That's right. The Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan has chosen to cooperate with Qin Feiyang. The Divine King shook his head and smiled. You already know? The human race supremacy was surprised. Yes. Last night, Qin Feiyang went to the Divine Island to look for me and talk to me about cooperation. He also made it clear that the Purple Gold Divine Dragon Clan has joined forces with him. At first, I couldn't believe it. But after Qin Feiyang left, I sent a message to the monarch to ask about this. He has already admitted it. The Divine King nodded. The human race supremacy looked at the monarch in a daze, then looked at the Divine King and asked, So, you have also chosen. I was still hesitating at first, but now, the ruler's actions have really disappointed me. It's not that I want to rebel, it's that he forced the god race to rebel. The Divine King clenched his fists. The human race supremacy fell silent. Supremacy, now that things have come to this, what are you still thinking about? Stand out. Qin Feiyang needs you, and so do we. The billions of creatures in the West Continent, North Continent, and South Continent also need you. The monarch invited. But the human race supremacy hesitated and frowned. Let's not talk about the spies first. Let's just say that the ruler asked the sea race and the beast race to monitor us. It's just Qin Feiyang's side of the story. But Qin Feiyang has already read the flood dragon's memories. How can this be false? The king frowned. He did read the flood dragon's memory, but he's the only one who knows what he found in the flood dragon's memory. The human clan supreme master said. What do you mean? Are you suspecting that Qin Feiyang is trying to sow discord between us and the sovereign? The king raised his eyebrows. I, the supreme master of the human race, swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Let me tell you, if you really think that way, then you are insulting Qin Feiyang's character. The king was a little angry. You trust him that much? The human supreme being was astonished. Yes. I trust him. Because he is a descendant of my purple gold divine dragon clan. While the purple gold divine dragon race isn't completely selfless, we still know our limits when it comes to major issues. Furthermore, you should know about the elders of my purple gold divine dragon clan, right? Qin Feiyang and the others have already gained their recognition. To tell you the truth, the ones who decided to join forces with Qin Feiyang and the others were these elders as well. I was just following orders. The king said. When the human clan supreme master heard this, his heart was suddenly in turmoil. This group of little guys had actually gained the recognition of those elders. It was really unbelievable. After calming down with great difficulty, he looked at the divine king and asked, "What about you? Qin Feiyang has caused so much damage to the god race, even killing Jiang Yunshuang and the others, and destroying the bodies of you and the 10 sovereigns. Can you really disregard the past and cooperate with them?" Disregard the past? Of course not. I'm not such a magnanimous person. However, this kid has given me an irresistible temptation. The divine king smiled bitterly. What temptation? The king also looked at her curiously. Don't you know? He has a pill that can unlock the door of potential. The divine king looked at the king suspiciously. What? A pill that can unlock the door of potential? The king was surprised. The human clan supreme master was also dumbfounded. You really don't know? The divine king looked at the king in astonishment. She thought that with the relationship between Qin Feiyang and the purple gold divine dragon clan, he would have already told the king. It was even possible that the king had already unlocked the door of potential. Therefore, when she sent a message to the king to ask if he had really joined forces with Qin Feiyang, she did not mention this matter. I don't know. The king frowned and scolded angrily, these heartless guys. How could they not tell us such an important thing? This matter was really wronged. When he was in the village, Qin Feiyang did not think of this at all. Are you sure? The human clan supreme master took a deep breath and looked at the divine king. This was simply shocking news. Of course I'm sure. I have already unlocked all the doors of potential with their help. The divine king smiled proudly. What? The king and the human clan supreme master were shocked. He had already unlocked the doors of potential? And all the doors of potential? Let me see. When he came back to his senses, the human clan supreme master looked at the divine king expectantly. What the hell? Let you see? The divine king's face suddenly darkened. The potential mark was born in the chest. How could a man like you see it? Are you trying to take advantage of me? Cough, cough. The human clan supreme master also came back to his senses. His face was full of embarrassment. The king also looked at the human clan supreme master with disdain. He was already so old, but he still said such inappropriate words. Pretend I didn't say anything. The human clan supreme master's face turned red. He was really old and muddle-headed to make such a low-level mistake. The matter of the potential imprint, this is absolutely true. I have no reason to lie to you about this. Although the death of Jiang Yunshuang and the other two is indeed a pity, if we can get these elixirs, it will be a matter of minutes to create a few geniuses. So, with such an offer, how can I not be tempted? The Divine King shook his head and smiled. That's true. The human clan Supreme Master nodded. The more the king listened, the angrier he became. These little bastards, don't they know how to keep the goodies within the family? If there was such a good thing, shouldn't they think of the purple gold Divine Dragon clan first? They let the Divine King take advantage of this first. He felt extremely unbalanced. However, no matter what, I can't make a decision on this matter immediately. How about this? Let Qin Feiyang investigate. If there is conclusive evidence that the Sea clan and the Beast clan have indeed planted spies around us, then I will cooperate with him. The human clan Supreme Master looked at the two of them and said, "You really are a stubborn old man." The king glared at him. "I have no choice. If I'm alone, it doesn't matter what I do. But now, my decision will determine the fate of the entire human race in the Divine Kingdom. I have to be careful." The human clan Supreme Master sighed. "All right, I understand. If it weren't for those old men's decision, would still be hesitating like you." The king shook his head. "However, we have to be careful about this matter. From now on, when we do things, especially when dealing with Qin Feiyang and the others, we must be careful. If there is really a spy, then we will be in big trouble." The human clan Supreme Master said worriedly. "I think so too." The king nodded. "What about Dong Zhengyang? He is now with the old men. If the Sea clan and the Beast clan discover him, it will be very disadvantageous for us." The Divine King was worried. There is no need to worry about the situation in the village. With the old men's strength, the Sea clan and the Beast clan won't be able to get close to the village. Moreover, Dong Zhengyang, whether in the Sky Cloud realm or our Divine Kingdom, has always been unknown. There are not many people who know him. Even if the Sea clan and the Beast clan see him, they won't know that he is Qin Feiyang's man. The king smiled slightly. "Even so, it is better to be careful." The Divine King said. "I will." After Li Feng went to the village and explained these things, Dong Zhengyang has been hidden by the old men. The king said. The Divine King continued, "In addition, to prevent the Sea clan and the Beast clan from being suspicious, we should continue to pursue Qin Feiyang and the others. This is necessary. Until the last moment, our cooperation with Qin Feiyang must not be exposed." The king nodded. Hearing this, the human race's supreme being looked at the two of them helplessly and said, "Aren't the two of you trying to drag me down by starting this discussion right in front of me?" Haha, hearing this, the two couldn't help but laugh. "That's right. That's dragging you into the water. East Continent. Black Tortoise Realm." Li Feng had returned. When he learned that he had successfully obtained the 6 ultimate mysteries of the Jiao Dragon, he was pleasantly surprised. Tea Garden. Qin Feiyang leisurely tasted the divine tea, looked at Li Feng sitting opposite him, and asked with a smile, "Did Lord Zhou beat you up when he saw you go back?" "Almost. If it weren't for the other great-grandfathers and great-grandmothers stopping him, he would have suffered a terrible torture." Li Feng smiled bitterly. "Ha," Qin Feiyang laughed. "You're still laughing? I can tell now. You want me to go because you want me to be your punching bag." Li Feng was dissatisfied. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. "You're still pretending?" "At first, I didn't care. But when I arrived at the village and saw Dong Zhengyang, I realized that you could have sent a message to Dong Zhengyang and told the old master and the others about this. But you made me go there personally. Aren't you tricking me?" Li Feng pursed his lips. "Ahem." Qin Feiyang coughed and quickly poured a cup of tea, handed it to Li Feng, and said with a smile, "Try it. After you drink it, you'll know that even if you get beaten up, it's worth it." The corner of Li Feng's mouth twitched. He picked up the teacup and sniffed it. The tea was indeed fragrant. However, at this moment, buzz! The divine voice stone rang. Qin Feiyang put down the teacup suspiciously, took out the divine voice stone, checked it, and was stunned. "Who is it?" Li Feng was suspicious. Dong Zhengyang. Qin Feiyang activated the divine voice stone, and Dong Zhengyang's shadow appeared immediately. However, next to Dong Zhengyang, there was a group of old men. It was Boss Ji and the others. Master Ji Jiao was also there. Looking at Qin Feiyang, Master Ji Jiao blew his beard and glared. If Qin Feiyang was by his side, he would definitely beat him up. "Great-grandfather, what's the matter?" Master Ji Jiao's gaze made Qin Feiyang feel a little guilty. "Of course. Get your ass back here for me. See how I'll deal with you." Master Ji Jiao's eyes were wide open like an angry lion. "Ha!" Qin Feiyang laughed dryly. Ji Laoshi said unhappily, "Old Jiao, aren't there just a few dozen tea trees? Don't be so petty in front of a junior." "I'm petty? Big brother, aren't you being a little too biased?" "What do you mean, aren't there just a few dozen tea trees? Those are my treasures, especially the Bodhi divine tree. I worked hard all these years to cultivate 6 of them, and he took 2 of them away. They're really not your treasures. Don't you feel sorry for them?" Master Ji Jiao glared at Boss Ji. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became. "Ha!" Boss Ji laughed dryly, looked at Qin Feiyang, and said, "You've really gone too far this time." Qin Feiyang was helpless. "Didn't you also have a share?" Chapter 41:18. Old Ji said, "Today, us old men gathered together and took the initiative to send you a message because we want to interrogate you about something." "Interrogate me? What is it?" Qin Feiyang's eyelids twitched. It sounded a little serious. Ji Laoshi asked, "Do you have a pill that can unlock the door of potential?" "Huh?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. How did these old men know about it? Ji Laoshi snorted coldly. "Don't deny it. We have already interrogated Dong Zhengyang, and he has already confessed." Dong Zhengyang looked at Qin Feiyang helplessly and said, "It was the divine king who told the king, and the king passed it on to these old men." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. It turned out that these old men were here to interrogate him. "I say, this kid, do you have any conscience? We treated you well, right? We treated you well with good wine and dishes. We even helped you steal old Jiao's tea tree. Is this how you treat us? Instead of taking care of your own family, you took care of the divine king, an outsider. You're really a heartless white-eyed wolf." The group of old men was filled with righteous indignation. Qin Feiyang's face was full of helplessness. At that time in the village, facing everyone's enthusiasm, he didn't think of this matter at all. Sorry, it's my fault, Qin Feiyang quickly apologized. It was indeed his negligence. When he opened the door of potential for the divine king, he should have thought of these old men. Of course it's your fault. But if you know your mistakes and can change, you're still a good young man. You understand, right? Ji Laoshi bared his teeth. Yes. However, if I give you the pill, then in the future, Master Jiao, you will let bygones be bygones? Qin Feiyang smiled. Are you negotiating with us? Master Jiao's face darkened. No. I just said it casually. Please don't take it seriously. Isn't it just medicinal pills? That's what I should give you. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand. What he said was touching and righteous. But Ninth Master Ji didn't buy it at all. He snorted coldly and said, "Don't try to curry favor with me. Give me the elixir or not. Anyway, I'll settle the account with you about the tea tree. All right. As long as it makes you happy, I will accept any punishment. Qin Feiyang nodded. The corner of Ji Jiao's mouth twitched. This little bastard's mouth must have been smeared with honey. I see. I'll get someone to refine the pills right away. I'll get Li Feng to deliver them to you personally. Qin Feiyang smiled. Not only for us, but for other clansmen as well. Ji Jiao said with a cold face. This, Qin Feiyang's expression froze. What is it? You're not happy? Ninth Master Ji asked. No. There's no need for me to tell you the importance of these pills. I'm sure you can imagine it. If, Qin Feiyang's face was full of worry. But before he could finish, Ninth Master Ji said, there's no if. We'll personally control these pills and won't let them fall into the hands of others. Even if the monarch wants them, he'll have to get our permission first. Same. We'll also tell those who have unlocked the gate of potential to keep their mouths shut. And we won't tell anyone that these pills were refined by you. Ninth Master Ji added. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly and shook his head. Since you've already thought it through, I'll give you 100 sets of pills first. Sure. If you need any herbs, just tell me. With the foundation of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan, I can easily give you a lot of them. Ninth Master Ji chuckled. The other old men were also beaming with joy. Even Master Ji Jiao had a hint of joy in his eyes. All right. I'll arrange it right away. Qin Feiyang turned off the voice transmission stone. Asking me to go again. Ninth Master Ji might beat me up again. Li Feng muttered. Don't be afraid. Young man, be brave. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly, patted Li Feng's shoulder, and secretly told Dan Wangkai to refine the pills. Soon. 100 sets of pills came out. Li Feng took the pills and headed to the village with a look of facing death. Qin Feiyang also called Long Qin to leave the Black Tortoise realm and wait for Li Feng's return. After a while, Li Feng returned. But his brows were tightly knitted together. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. Ninth Master didn't want to beat me this time, but I heard from these old men that Ryuko and Ji Shaoi are also on the list of those who have unlocked the gate of potential. Li Feng said. Ryuko, Ji Shaoi? Long Qin was stunned, looked at Qin Feiyang and said, aren't they our opponents? Qin Feiyang scratched his head and said, they shouldn't be considered opponents now. After all, they had already joined forces with the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. Moreover, Ryuko and Ji Shaoi were both direct descendants of the Purple Gold Divine Dragon clan. And if one were to think about it carefully, they were cousins of the ancestor. Because Qin Feiyang was the son of the Princess of the Divine Kingdom, and Ryuko was the son of Heavenly Lord Ji. The Princess of the Divine Kingdom and Heavenly Lord Ji were biological siblings, so according to their relationship and seniority, Qin Batian and Ryuko were cousins. And Ji Shaoi was Ji Yunhai's biological grandson. Ji Yunhai and the monarch were biological brothers, and Qin Batian and Ji Shaoi were also cousins. Although you think so, they may not think so. Moreover, only those old men and the monarch know about the cooperation with the Purple Gold Divine Dragon. Young people like Ryuko and Ji Shaoi will definitely be kept in the dark. At that time, they may even come to target us. Li Feng frowned. If they really come to target us, then I will have a whole new level of respect for them. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. With their current strength, without full courage, who would dare to target them? So, if Ryuko and Ji Shaoi really came to deal with them, they would be praised for their courage. Then what's next? Long Qin asked. Next, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and said with a smile, of course, we're going to meet the ruler of this area, Tianpeng. Tianpeng? Long Qin and Li Feng were stunned. This Tianpeng is one of the 20 beast gods of the beast clan. Right now, we happen to be in the area under its jurisdiction. I guess at this moment, it is also asking the beast sovereigns below to investigate our origins. Qin Feiyang smiled. I see. Li Feng suddenly smiled and said with a grin, then he must be very strong. You should want to say that it has mastered a lot of ultimate profound meanings. Long Qin looked at him with disdain. Huh, Li Feng laughed and suddenly looked at Long Qin, saying, Big sister, that. Long Zun. No, that Jiao dragon is stronger than all the geniuses. Now that we have killed it, shouldn't it be counted as a spot? Stop. Long Qin rolled her eyes and snorted, I have already made an exception. Don't push your luck. It has to be killing the young geniuses of the divine kingdom. All right. Li Feng was helpless. This beast clan should also have many young geniuses. With his current strength, he believed that he could successfully kill it without the help of Qin Feiyang and the others. 2 days passed. Tianpeng Mountain. The dozen or so beast sovereigns who were ordered to investigate the origins of Qin Feiyang and the others returned to Tianpeng Mountain in a hurry. Why are you in such a panic? Tianpeng raised its head and looked at the group of beast sovereigns. My lord. We have investigated clearly. According to the ferocious beasts under the command of the dragon sovereign, the culprit seems to be, speaking of this. The group of beast sovereigns swallowed their saliva, their eyes full of fear. Who? Tianpeng asked. It was quite surprised. Who on earth could make these usually lawless revered beasts so frightened? You should see for yourself. A black dragon waved its dragon claws, and 3 figures quickly appeared. Tianpeng looked over. At first, there was some doubt in its eyes. But soon, its expression changed and it immediately stood up, staring at the 3 figures. The scene fell into a dead silence in an instant. Are you sure it's them? After a long time, Tianpeng came back to its senses and looked at the group of beast sovereigns. Yes. And I heard that they seem to have come to the East Continent to take refuge. The black dragon beast sovereign nodded. Take refuge? Tianpeng was stunned. Didn't they cause havoc on Mount Supreme and the mythical island a while ago? It said that Mu Qin, who has the all-seeing eye, awakened a mid-level dominator divine weapon at Mount Supreme and killed the human prodigies, making a name for himself. As for the mythical island, it was destroyed by them twice. The prodigies of the god race, Jiang Yunshuang, Jiang Xing, and Jiang Zishan were all killed by them. Especially when they came to the mythical island for the first time, they killed more than half of the direct descendants of the god race. And the purple gold divine dragon clan. There's news that Ji Shaoi's Eye of Destiny has also been snatched by Qin Feiyang and the others. Although it hasn't been confirmed yet, it's probably true. The 3 major races won't let such a blood feud go. So, they must have come to the East Continent to hide from the god race, the human race, and the purple gold divine dragon clan. The dozen or so beast sovereigns spoke one after another. That rumor was actually deliberately released by the monarch. Because of this, it made more sense for the purple gold divine dragon clan to hunt down Qin Feiyang and the others. Hide, Tianpeng murmured and asked, what is the stance of the monarch, the divine king, and the human sovereign now? We don't know yet. If my lord allows, we can go to the West Continent, South Continent, and North Continent to investigate. The dozen beast sovereigns said respectfully. No need. Tianpeng shook his head. Then what should we do now? Qin Feiyang and the others aren't simple people. Especially Qin Feiyang. It's said that he has mastered the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. Even the monarch lost to him in the sky cloud realm. If it wasn't for the Lord, he would have died in the sky cloud realm. The dozen beast sovereigns were worried. Even if he has mastered the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, he can't do as he pleases in the East Continent. Tianpeng snorted coldly. This must be a misunderstanding. I've never thought of doing as I please in Lord Tianpeng's territory. However, as soon as they finished speaking, 3 figures appeared in the sky with lightning speed, accompanied by faint laughter. Qin Feiyang. Li Feng. Long Qin. The dozen beast sovereigns immediately raised their heads and stared at the 3. Their eyes flashed fiercely, but at the same time, there was a trace of fear that couldn't be dispelled. Chapter 41:19. So it's them. Sky Peng sized up Qin Feiyang and the other 2 with a cold glint in its eyes. Not only did they kill the beast venerables under its command, but they also dared to barge into its lair, Sky Peng Mountain. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were also sizing up Sky Peng and the beast venerables under its command. The aura they exuded was extraordinary. How extravagant. Li Feng looked at the nest, his eyes full of shock. Indeed. Long Qin nodded. It was the first time he had seen a nest made of spirit veins and crystal veins. Furthermore, there were many rare and exotic fruits in the bird's nest. These rare fruits were rooted in the spirit veins and crystal veins. They were full of vitality and were overflowing with light. Boom! When they came back to their senses, the beast venerables suddenly burst out with a terrifying aura and stared at Qin Feiyang as if they were facing a great enemy. Do you want to fight? Li Feng snickered. Fighting was exactly what he had been looking for. Even if each of the beast venerables had only mastered 3 ultimate mysteries of the ultimate laws, there were still 30 to 40 of them. 30 to 40 ultimate mysteries of the ultimate laws were enough for them to create several elites with the will of heaven. Calm down. Sky Peng shouted coldly and looked at Qin Feiyang with a frown. Your Excellency, why did the 3 of you come to the East Continent and kill the beast venerables and beast emperors of the beast clan? We didn't want to kill them. They were the ones who asked for it. In fact, I don't understand either. Isn't it good for them to live in this world? Why did they have to come here to die? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Do you still need to think? Of course it's because they are stupid. Long Qin sneered. Sky Peng was furious when he heard this. You came to the East Continent to cause trouble and blamed the Beast Clan for being stupid. How can you do that? Qin Feiyang looked at Long Qin and said unhappily, Little Qin, don't be rude. Lord Sky Peng is our senior. We have to respect him. Long Qin's face darkened as he stared at Qin Feiyang. Little Qin, you call me that so easily? Sky Peng's face also darkened. Respect? He really didn't see any respect for it. Qin Feiyang sighed. Senior, actually, we're here to seek protection. Protection? Sky Peng frowned. The dozen or so venerable beasts looked at each other. Were they really here to seek refuge? Since they came to the East Continent to seek refuge, how could they be so arrogant? Qin Feiyang looked at Tianpeng and the other beast sovereigns and sighed. I believe all of you have heard about our situation in the South, North, and West continents. We came to the East Continent because we had nowhere else to go. Really? I heard that even the monarch is no match for you. Are you still afraid of them? Tianpeng sneered. I did have a battle with the monarch and won by a fluke. However, we are not facing the monarch alone. We are facing the human race, the celestial race, and the purple-gold divine dragon race. It's not the first time the 3 great races have joined forces to encircle and annihilate us. If it weren't for the blessings of the heavens, we would have died in their hands long ago. Qin Feiyang sighed. Tianpeng looked at Qin Feiyang's expression. His eyes flickered, as if he was not faking it. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I heard that the beast race and the sea tribe have always been at odds with the 3 great races. Therefore, I hope to gain the support of the beast race and the sea tribe. Qin Feiyang smiled. You are quite knowledgeable. Tianpeng sneered. It's not hard to find out. After all, your relationship with the three great races is no secret. Qin Feiyang smiled. But we, the beast race and the sea tribe, are members of the divine kingdom. Do you think that we will join forces with an outsider like you to fight the three great races? Tianpeng looked at Qin Feiyang with sarcasm. I know. My identity as an outsider is a little sensitive. But I don't think it will affect our cooperation. Think about it. When the three great races are destroyed, who will benefit the most? Naturally, it will be the beast race and the sea tribe. At that time, you will be the overlord of the divine kingdom. No one will be able to shake your position. Those who obey me will prosper. Those who oppose me will die. You can do whatever you want. Qin Feiyang smiled. It is indeed quite tempting. Tianpeng sneered. As for me, to be honest, I have no hatred for the beast race and the sea tribe. Because the ones who invaded the sky cloud realm were the human race, the god race, and the purple gold divine dragon race. The beast race and the sea tribe never participated. As the saying goes, every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. Therefore, my target is only the three great races. As long as I destroy the three great races and avenge the souls of the sky cloud realm, I will immediately take my people and leave the divine kingdom. I will not disturb you anymore. Qin Feiyang smiled. Your ambition is not small. You actually want to wipe out the three great races in one fell swoop. Tianpeng frowned. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with killing intent. He said resentfully, if it was you, senior, you would also hate the three great races as much as I do when you see the sky cloud realm falling apart and the innocent lives that died in their hands. I have also heard about this. I express my sympathy. However, if you want the beast race and the sea tribe to cooperate with you to deal with the three great races, this will never happen. Tianpeng snorted coldly. Why? Qin Feiyang frowned. Putting aside personal grudges, we and the three great races are all members of the divine kingdom. If we cooperate with you, wouldn't it be the same as betraying the divine kingdom? Do you think the Lord Ruler will let us go when the time comes? I also advise you to quickly leave the divine kingdom. Otherwise, you will face destruction sooner or later. Tianpeng sneered coldly. Persuade us to leave the divine kingdom? Li Feng was slightly taken aback. He asked suspiciously, you don't want to settle the score with us? Tianpeng held back his killing intent and said, since the flood dragon and the others are courting death, I have nothing to say. Get lost. The East Continent does not welcome you. The reason for that was because it simply did not have the confidence to fight against Qin Feiyang. If he did, would he make a move? He was afraid that he would kill them as soon as he saw the three of them. Get lost? Qin Feiyang was taken aback. He controlled his temper and sighed. I thought the beast race would be more courageous, but I didn't expect them to be so weak. What did you say? Tianpeng raised his eyebrows. The dozen or so beast sovereigns also stared at Qin Feiyang gloomily. Nothing. But, Senior Tianpeng, although you are the beast god and rule the world, the one who can really make the decisions of the beast race seems to be the dragon god. I hope Senior can take us to see the dragon god. Qin Feiyang said. You want to see the dragon god? You're a little arrogant. The dozen or so beast sovereigns stared at Qin Feiyang with hatred. Impossible. The dragon god is not someone you can see just because you want to. Also, if the dragon god knows that you came to the East Continent to cause trouble, he will not let you go easily. That's why I'm kindly advising you all to get lost if you know what's good for you. Tianpeng said gloomily. Get lost again? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Can't you talk nicely? He smiled faintly and said, since Senior is not willing to lead the way, I have to go myself. Don't be too presumptuous. Tianpeng was furious. Presumptuous? Li Feng's eyes suddenly turned cold. He said coldly, "We are already very polite. Otherwise, trash like you would have become corpses lying on the ground." "What did you say? Trash like us?" Tian Peng's eyes turned gloomy. "Don't be so shameless. Qin Dage came to the East Continent to seek refuge because he gave you face. He didn't want to embarrass you too much. Do you really think you're something?" Li Feng's eyes flashed coldly. "Bastard. Where do you think you are? How dare you be so presumptuous?" Tian Peng was not the only one. Even the dozen or so beast sovereigns were furious and shouted loudly. Li Feng's face was full of disdain. He stared at the dozen or so beast sovereigns and shouted, "You don't agree? You're too arrogant. Sir, please give the order." The dozen or so beast sovereigns were trembling with anger. They looked at Tian Peng and shouted. Tian Peng took a deep breath and stared at Qin Feiyang. "I really want to see the power of the law of life and death." "Are you sure?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked jokingly. "Let me see it." Tian Peng spread his wings and flew 90,000 miles into the sky. He was suspended at the top of the sky. Strands of power of law surged out like a tide. "All right. Senior, since you're so curious, I'll fulfill your wish. We'll stop here." Qin Feiyang stepped into the sky and stood opposite Tian Peng. The law of life and death gushed out. The heavens and earth began to tremble. The next moment, the kingdom of life and death was born. The will of the heavenly way contained a terrifying heavenly might that shook the world. Opposite, Tian Peng looked at the kingdom of life and death. His pupils shrank slightly. Was this the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death? Although he had heard of it, it was his first time seeing it with his own eyes. "I don't believe it's so heaven-defying." The 6 ultimate profound meanings appeared out of nowhere. They were all ultimate laws. The will of the heavenly way erupted, shattering the sky and attacking the kingdom of life and death. Boom! In an instant, the two collided. An apocalyptic aura spread out from the top of the sky. Poof! Finally, Tian Peng spat out a mouthful of blood. The 6 ultimate meanings were all shattered. Although the kingdom of life and death collapsed at the same time and Qin Feiyang also suffered some injuries, this scene shocked Tian Peng and the dozen or so beast sovereigns. Was this the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death? 1 against 6. Terrifying. Truly terrifying. No wonder even the king was defeated by this person. Although the king had 3,000 incarnations, so did this person. Not to mention anything else, the kingdom of life and death was enough to determine the outcome. It was unbelievable. How did this person comprehend the law of life and death? One must know. The divine kingdom had countless strong people and countless geniuses, but so far, no one had comprehended the law of life and death. Do you still want to continue? Qin Feiyang stood against the wind with a faint smile on his face. His long hair fluttered in the wind. His temperament was ethereal, like a descendant of God. Such a calm and collected attitude made Tian Peng feel ashamed of his inferiority. He couldn't help but wonder if this was really a junior. Why did he look more unfathomable than these old monsters who had lived for countless years? Chapter 41-20. Below. More than a dozen beast masters looked at each other, their eyes flashing fiercely as they rushed toward the sky. Obviously, they wanted to go up and help. However, 2 figures stood in front of them. It was Li Feng and Long Qin. Get lost. More than a dozen beast masters were furious. Various ultimate profound meanings rained down on the two like a torrential storm. The strength of these beast masters was indeed extraordinary. Each of them had mastered 6 ultimate mysteries, including at least 4 ultimate laws. Looking down on us so much? Long Qin was stunned. Then let them experience the price of underestimating us. Li Feng bared his teeth, revealing a sinister smile. Boom! The puppet real body was activated. At the same time, Long Qin smiled disdainfully, the 6 ultimate laws roared out, and the will of heavenly path erupted. What? More than a dozen beast masters were shocked. Including Tian Peng in the sky. This Long Qin also mastered the will of heavenly path? That's not right. Although the beast clan did not participate in the invasion of the sky cloud realm, they were very clear about what happened in the sky cloud realm. Moreover, they had also inquired about the strength of Qin Feiyang and the others. This Long Qin did not master the will of heavenly path at all. Was this something she had comprehended? Impossible. In these short years, even an unprecedented genius would not be able to comprehend so many ultimate mysteries of the ultimate laws. It must be the fusion of the inheritance. But didn't they say that the sky cloud realm did not even have the ultimate laws before? How could there be the ultimate mysteries inheritance? In the blink of an eye, Long Qin and Li Feng joined forces to fight more than a dozen beast masters. The ultimate laws with the will of heavenly path could also fight 1 against 6. Long Qin's 6 ultimate laws all contained the will of heavenly path and could compete with 36 ultimate mysteries of the same realm. Li Feng himself and the puppet real body also had 8 ultimate mysteries. However, the number of beast masters was too many. Each of them had 4 ultimate mysteries of the ultimate laws, and more than a dozen beast masters had more than 50 ultimate mysteries. This had exceeded the sum of Li Feng and Long Qin. Although both of them had the strength to crush each other, now that it was a melee with more than a dozen beast masters joining forces, the two were at a disadvantage for a time. You guys are really arrogant. Although your individual combat prowess is very strong, you have no chance of winning against the massive numbers and resources of our beast race. Tian Peng sneered at Qin Feiyang. Really? A cold light flashed in Qin Feiyang's eyes. More than 10 clones appeared. 3,000 clones. Sky Peng was shocked. Go. Qin Feiyang smiled at the dozen or so incarnations. The dozen or so avatars immediately charged toward the dozen or so beast masters below with terrifying, hideous laughter. How dare you! Tian Peng shouted, wanting to stop them. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and summoned another 4 incarnations. They flew around the sky rock like lightning and surrounded it. Below. More than 10 incarnations charged over. The kingdom of life and death and the will of the great path were all activated. Cries of agony resounded through the sky. 5 of the beast sovereigns were severely injured. Their sea of qi was shattered and their divine souls were shattered. They had lost their ability to fight. There were 14 venerable beasts in total. Now that the 5 venerable beasts had been severely injured, there were only 9 venerable beasts left. Even if the 9 venerable beasts joined forces, they were no match for Long Qin and Li Feng. The situation was reversed in an instant. Isn't this good? Qin Feiyang looked at Tian Peng and smiled, as if he had done something very easy. Tian Peng's face was gloomy. Although it was rumored that the people around Qin Feiyang were very terrifying, he himself was the most terrifying. 3,000 clones, the Dharma of life and death, the will of heaven, wait. There was also the eye of heaven. Any one of these methods had incredible power. One could imagine how terrifying it was when all of them were concentrated on one person. On the battlefield below. The outcome had been decided. The remaining 9 venerable beasts were all suppressed by Long Qin and Li Feng. The dozen or so incarnations did not interfere after severely injuring the 5 venerable beasts. Because of this battle, Sky Peng Mountain, including Tian Peng's nest, was destroyed. Tian Peng was very distressed and angry at the same time. But now, its heart was filled with fear. The 4 incarnations besieged it. Each of the incarnation's methods were stronger than it. As long as Qin Feiyang gave the order, it would lose its life here. Qin Feiyang looked at Tianpeng and laughed. Lord Tianpeng, tell me, how should we deal with this situation? You'd better restrain yourself. Tianpeng said in a deep voice. Haven't I always been very restrained? But you've spoken rudely again and again, and the word scram never left your mouth. Do you think that the word scram makes you look more powerful? Qin Feiyang looked at it mockingly. Tianpeng was gloomy and did not speak. Qin Feiyang smiled. I personally think that you owe us an apology. After all, I've been very polite to you. Tianpeng glared at Qin Feiyang. What? Are you very unhappy? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. There was a dangerous signal in his smile. Tianpeng's pupils constricted. In the end, it lowered its arrogant head and endured the grievance in its heart. I'm sorry. Huh, Qin Feiyang raised his head and laughed. This laughter was particularly ear-piercing in Tianpeng's ears. A murderous intent flashed in its eyes as it nodded. I'll bring you to see the dragon god. Really? Qin Feiyang was stunned. In fact, he had already sensed the murderous intent in Tianpeng's heart. Tianpeng nodded. Wouldn't it be better if you did this earlier? Why did you have to force us to take action? Qin Feiyang smiled. But the next moment, murderous intent surged in his eyes as he looked at the four incarnations and shouted, "Destroy it." What? Tianpeng was shocked. Why did they turn hostile just like that? Didn't it already apologize? Boom! The four incarnations attacked. The four kingdoms of life and death exuded a destructive power. Of course, Tianpeng would not sit still and wait for death. But its resistance was meaningless. Accompanied by a scream, its physical body was directly shattered, blood staining the sky, and more than half of its divine soul was also obliterated. I really don't know who gave you the right to be so arrogant. Qin Feiyang sneered. The law of life and death emerged and sealed its divine soul. With a wave of his hand, the four incarnations and the dozen incarnations below all dissipated. Whoosh! Immediately after, he landed beside Long Qin and Li Feng, looking at the 14 severely injured beast venerables. What do you want? The 14 beast venerables were scared out of their wits. Even Tianpeng beast deity, who had mastered the will of heaven, was powerless in front of this person, let alone them. Qin Dage, these beast venerables are great treasures. Li Feng bared his teeth. Great treasures? What do you mean? The 14 beast venerables were puzzled. Why did Li Feng look as if he had seen a few delicious cakes? Qin Feiyang's eyes were also full of smiles. First, suppress them in Soul Sealing Valley. You personally guard them and don't give them a chance to cause trouble. Understood. Li Feng nodded. With a wave of Qin Feiyang's hand, Li Feng and the 14 beast venerables immediately disappeared without a trace. What are you doing? Where did you send them? Tianpeng's remnant soul was shocked when it saw this scene. Long Qin glanced at Tianpeng's remnant soul and said contemptuously, instead of worrying about them, why don't you worry about your own situation first? Tianpeng's remnant soul quivered. These were demons. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered for a while. Then he said telepathically, Little Qin, when you see the dragon god later, secretly activate your fighting soul and see if it and Tianpeng are secretly plotting something. Do you really call me that so easily? But why do I feel that it's a little awkward? Long Qin furrowed her beautiful brows. You don't like it? Okay, then I'll call you Your Highness from now on. Qin Feiyang laughed secretly. Long Qin rolled her eyes. Although she wasn't used to it, she couldn't deny that when she heard Qin Feiyang call her Little Qin, there was a very special feeling. It was as if they had become more intimate. Moreover, She could also clearly feel Qin Feiyang's concern for her. Let's go and meet this dragon god. From the dragon's memory, it seems to be very strong and even has a way to restrain the 3,000 incarnations. Qin Feiyang laughed. What? Restrain the 3,000 incarnations? Long Qin was surprised. Wasn't it only her brother's god's domain that could restrain the 3,000 incarnations? That's what the dragon's memory said, but whether it's true or not, we'll have to go and meet it to know. While speaking, Qin Feiyang glanced at Tian Peng's remnant soul. You'll regret it when the time comes. Tian Peng's remnant soul snorted. Qin Feiyang's eyes narrowed slightly. Listening to Tian Peng's words, could it be that there was really a way to restrain the 3,000 incarnations? But thinking about it carefully, it didn't seem strange. The 3,000 incarnations were so powerful. If there was no way to restrain them, then the king wouldn't be so afraid when facing the beast race and the sea race. Moreover, the beast race and the sea race were the confidants of the divine kingdom's ruler. The divine kingdom's ruler would naturally give the dragon god and Neptune some trump cards that could suppress the king. Long Qin asked, "Do you know where the dragon god's nest is?" "Yes. It seems to be in a place called Dragon God Mountain." All of this was in the dragon's memory. The reason why he came to find Tian Peng first and didn't go directly to the dragon god was to prepare a gift for the dragon god. This greeting gift was naturally the Sky Peng. Dragon God Mountain. This place was located in the hinterland of the East Continent. Here, the mountains and rivers were magnificent and the scenery was pleasant. The energy of the crystal vein and the soul line turned into clouds, lingering in the mountains, making this place look like a fairyland. In the mountains, there were countless waterfalls of various sizes. Each waterfall poured down from the top of a giant mountain, converging into clear rivers that meandered through the entire Dragon God Mountain. There were also many auspicious beasts flying in the mountains. On the whole, this was a very peaceful place without any killing. At the top of one of the giant mountain peaks, the waterfall poured down like a silver-white curtain. On the side of the source of the waterfall sat an exquisite courtyard. The courtyard was about a few hundred feet wide. All kinds of flowers and plants were planted, and it was full of vitality. Inside, there was a 2-story pavilion. It was antique and had a classical aura. The melodious sound of the flute drifted across the mountain. A young man in white, about 20 years old, stood at the top of the waterfall with a jade flute in his hand. His white clothes fluttered, and he was as otherworldly as an immortal, playing a beautiful melody. Chapter 41-21. In the mountains below. Beside a river. A man and a woman walked side by side, admiring the scenery around them. The man. Dressed in white, he looked mature and steady. His every movement exuded a charm. The woman. Dressed in a white dress, long hair fluttering in the wind, obedient and cute. They looked like a pair of siblings on a scenic tour. That's right. It was Qin Feiyang and Long Qin. It's pretty good here. Long Qin glanced at the scenery around, with a hint of a smile on her fair face. Yes. This dragon god is a sensible person who enjoys life. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. Gradually, they also heard the melodious sound of the flute. The sound of the flute, without any murderous intent, was like a slowly flowing stream, making people forget their troubles, and their bodies and minds were in a state of emptiness. The two followed the sound of the flute and saw the young man in white standing at the top of the waterfall. What an elegant young man. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Whether it was this person's temperament or appearance, they were impeccable. Coupled with the scenery, it was as if the Son of God had descended to the mortal world. This person should be the dragon god. His temperament and appearance are not bad, much better than this stinky man in front of me, but compared to my brother, he's still a little worse. Long Qin muttered and commented. Ahem. Qin Feiyang coughed and said, "Who's a stinky man? Also, how is he better than me?" "He's better than you," do you have a problem with that? Long Qin raised her head proudly. Okay. As long as you're happy. Qin Feiyang had no choice but to follow the river bank and walk towards the giant peak under the feet of the young man in white, neither fast nor slow, as if he was on a scenic tour. Long Qin looked at Qin Feiyang's back, and a strange feeling suddenly rose in her heart. This feeling was the same as when she got along with Long Qin. Inexplicably, she felt warm and safe. And unknowingly, she seemed to have developed some dependence on this man. No. I should hate him. Long Qin shook his head and mumbled. What are you mumbling about? Hurry up and keep up. Qin Feiyang said with a smile without turning his head. Why are you rushing me? Long Qin glared at his back, shook off the thoughts in his mind, and hurriedly chased after him. The young man standing on top of the waterfall did not seem to notice Qin Feiyang and Li Wuyo below. He was still calmly playing his jade flute. Rivers. Small fish jumped out of the water from time to time, playing happily. Colorful birds could be seen everywhere in the forest on both sides, spreading their wings and flying high. This place was like an otherworldly paradise. Everything seemed so peaceful. A short while later, Qin Feiyang and Qin Haodong arrived at the waterfall. As the waterfall poured down, water droplets splashed everywhere, causing the wind and air here to become incomparably cool. Standing here, it was like bathing in the spring breeze, making people feel refreshed. The two of them were at the foot of the mountain, while the white-robed youth was at the top of the mountain. They were separated by thousands of feet, but neither of them seemed to have noticed the other. Everyone played their own game. It's so comfortable. Long Qin was barefooted as he sat on a rock and dangled his feet in the water. There was a satisfied smile on his face. Hey. Can you be more civilized? How can you just take off your shoes? Also, don't smoke the small fish in here to death. Qin Feiyang said with a teasing smile. Smoke to death? Long Qin was stunned. At first, she did not react. But soon, she knew what Qin Feiyang was trying to say. He was saying that she had athlete's foot. She immediately glared at Qin Feiyang fiercely and said angrily, "You're the one with athlete's foot. You can even smoke an elephant to death." Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. Looking at Long Qin at this moment, she was really like a little sister next door, and he could not help but want to protect her. It seemed that this was Long Qin's original character. I really miss when I was a child, my brother often took me to such a place to play. Catch fish, table crabs. Try to rub my feet for me. Long Qin lowered her head and looked at the rippling water with a nostalgic smile on her face. What? Long Qin will rub your stinky feet for you? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Which part of my feet stinks? It's cleaner than your face. Long Qin's face darkened and she said angrily, "You're really ruining the atmosphere. My good mood is ruined by you." Huh, Qin Feiyang laughed. The more he looked at this little girl, the cuter she was. Don't laugh. If you laugh again, I'll bite you. Long Qin pouted with a fierce look on her face. Bite me? So you're a dog too? Qin Feiyang shook his head and took off his shoes. What are you doing? Long Qin looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and also sat next to Long Qin. He put his feet into the water and a cool breath immediately swept over his body. Go away. Don't infect me with your athlete's foot. Long Qin immediately expressed her dislike, but she didn't really go away. Instead, there was a happy smile on her face. Think about the past. We were like fire and water. Who would have thought that we would sit here and chat with each other while soaking our feet? Qin Feiyang was full of emotions. The saying that the world was unpredictable was really vividly displayed by him and Long Qin. Long Qin lowered her head. She seemed to be recalling the past. Qin Feiyang raised his hand and patted Longqin's head gently and said with a smile, "It's really rare to have such a relationship now. In the future, whether it's me or you, we should cherish it." Longqin didn't expect that Qin Feiyang would suddenly make such an intimate gesture. A blush suddenly appeared on her cheeks. "Don't get me wrong. I don't have any romantic feelings for you." Qin Feiyang laughed. "Can you not be so smug?" The corner of Longqin's mouth twitched and she couldn't help but stare at him angrily. "Huh, but if you don't mind in the future, you can also call me brother. Of course, brother will also protect you and take care of you." Qin Feiyang laughed. "I don't mind. Very much." Longqin pursed her mouth and looked at the water surface. At this moment, there seemed to be a trace of panic in her eyes. She could see that Qin Feiyang's words were very sincere. But for this sudden care, she didn't know how to respond. However, this Qin Feiyang and the dragon god's relationship was too peaceful. One was at the foot of the mountain, the other was at the top of the mountain. They were obviously close to each other, but it was as if they didn't see each other. Seeing Longqin lowered her head and didn't say a word, Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and didn't say anything more. Because he could also understand Longqin. Once a life and death enemy, to become today's brother and sister, must need a process of adaptation. Suddenly, the sound of the flute on the top of the mountain became high-pitched and ear-piercing. It contained a murderous aura. This made the silent two immediately raise their heads and look at the top of the mountain. The young man in white standing above was still so ethereal, and they couldn't feel the slightest murderous intent. But the sound of the jade flute in his hand contained a sense of crisis. Splash! All of a sudden, the falling waterfall, like a sharp blade, emitted a monstrous sharpness, and went straight to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly, waved his arm gently, and the law of time emerged, blocking the sky above. The waterfall containing murderous aura was blocked above. Longqin looked at Qin Feiyang's side. Was this the feeling of being protected by this person? It was indeed very safe. It's impolite not to reciprocate. Qin Feiyang smiled again. He waved his hand again and the waterfall that was blocking the sky immediately turned into a torrent. It flowed against the current and surged towards the white-clothed young man from all directions. The young man in white was still as ethereal as an immortal. The sharp sound of the flute changed, and all the water gathered under his feet, like a god standing above the ocean. The next moment, the sound of the flute was sonorous, like a divine sword unsheathed, deafening. Immediately, the water gathered under his feet, accompanied by a deafening sound of Longqin, transformed into a huge divine dragon, roaring as it charged towards him. The dragon god is indeed extraordinary. Even the way he greets others is so different. Qin Feiyang chuckled. In the blink of an eye, the roaring divine dragon collapsed, turned into a waterfall again, and merged into the river. Above, the sound of the flute gradually faded. The young man in white put down the jade flute and finally lowered his head, looking at Qin Feiyang and Longqin, and said with a faint smile, "Brother Qin is also extraordinary. Coming to my place is like going on a scenic tour. Of course we have to take a good look at such a good place. I just hope we didn't disturb the dragon god." Qin Feiyang smiled, pulled Longqin up, put on his shoes, and stepped into the sky step by step, landing opposite the dragon god. The dragon god glanced at Qin Feiyang, then looked at Longqin, and said with a smile, "So you're of the same kind. I was wondering why I felt a little familiar." "Who's the same kind as you? Don't flatter yourself." Longqin disdained. The smile on the dragon god's face froze. This woman really didn't give him any face at all. Longqin turned to Qin Feiyang and said, "Didn't you prepare a greeting gift for him? Hurry up and give it to him." "A greeting gift?" The dragon god was stunned, and said with a smile, "How can I accept this? You don't have to be polite with us." Longqin's face was full of ridicule. Looking at that teasing smile, the dragon god couldn't help but have an uneasy premonition. Chapter 41-22. Qin Feiyang looked at Long Qin in amusement. With a wave of his hand, a jade box appeared. The jade box was the size of a palm and was made of precious jade. Not only was it exquisite, but it also exuded a kind of luxurious aura. The dragon god looked at the jade box suspiciously. "Lord Dragon God, please kindly accept it." Qin Feiyang handed it to the dragon god. The dragon god took the jade box and opened it suspiciously. When he saw what was inside the jade box, his expression suddenly froze. Surprisingly, there was an incomplete divine soul sealed inside. It was Sky Peng. "Lord, save me." Sky Peng cried for help. The dragon god came back to his senses, looked at Sky Peng's remnant soul, then looked up at Qin Feiyang and Long Qin, and said with a smile, "It's really a unique greeting gift. As long as Lord Dragon God doesn't mind." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Such a precious greeting gift, how would I dare to dislike it, thank you both." The dragon god smiled. In fact, he was thanking Qin Feiyang and Long Qin for showing mercy to Sky Peng. Immediately after, he planned to break the seal. But he found that what sealed Sky Peng's remnant soul was the law of life and death. He looked at the law of life and death, his eyes flickering. No one knew what he was thinking in his heart. Qin Feiyang looked indifferent, but there was a trace of expectation in his eyes. The reason why he used the law of life and death to seal it was actually his intention. He wanted to see if this dragon god had the ability to break the seal of the law of life and death. If he had this ability, the person in front of him must have the means to contend with the law of life and death. On the contrary, if the dragon god asked him to help break the seal of the law of life and death, it meant that the dragon god was also helpless in the face of the law of life and death. Brother Qin is really considerate. Suddenly, the dragon god chuckled and gently stroked his palm. Immediately, Qin Feiyang's pupils suddenly shrank, his face full of surprise. "What?" Long Qin secretly said. "He actually broke the seal." Qin Feiyang transmitted his voice. "What?" Long Qin had not noticed it yet. When he heard this, he quickly looked at the jade box. Indeed, the seal on the heavenly rock's remnant soul had vanished. Just a gentle touch was enough to undo the seal of the laws of life and death. How did he do it? When the seal was broken, I faintly felt an aura. However, this aura was like a night-blooming epiphyllum. It disappeared so quickly that I was unable to identify what it was. Qin Feiyang thought. This dragon god is indeed extraordinary. Long Qin felt a chill in his heart, and his eyes flashed with an imperceptible light. It was obvious. She had silently activated her fighting soul. Meanwhile, the Tianpeng divine soul that had regained its freedom immediately flew out of the jade box and transformed into a small golden bird the size of a fist. It looked at the dragon god with an aggrieved expression and said, "My lord, please uphold justice for this subordinate." "How can I make decisions for you?" the dragon god asked with a smile. "They broke into our east continent, arrogant, despotic, and committed crimes. We must kill them as a warning to others." The heavenly rock's eyes were filled with resentment. "We let you go, but you don't know how to be grateful. You still want to kill us? Do you want to die?" Long Qin stared coldly at the heavenly rock's remnant soul. However, with the dragon god in charge, the heavenly rock was not afraid at all. There was even a trace of disdain in his eyes. Arrogant, despotic, and committed crimes? The dragon god was slightly taken aback. He smiled and said, "Then tell me, what crimes have they committed?" "They killed my beast sovereigns and kidnapped 14 of my beast sovereigns. I don't know whether they are dead or alive. Their actions are enough to prove that they do not take us beast sovereigns seriously." The heavenly rock said with righteous indignation. The dragon god smiled faintly and said, "But why did I hear that you were the ones who started it?" "No. This subordinate has been very polite to them. I even advised them to leave the East Continent, but they did not appreciate it." The heavenly rock hurriedly said, "Are you talking about leaving? You are clearly telling us to scram." Longqin's face was extremely cold. The dignified beast god, an expert who had mastered the will of the heavenly Tao, was like a villain, stirring up trouble. How shameless. The heavenly rock said angrily, "You broke into the East Continent for no reason and killed my subjects. If I don't tell you to scram, do I have to treat you like a lord?" Longqin raised his eyebrows and looked at the heavenly rock with undisguised killing intent in his eyes. The dragon god looked at Longqin and then at the silent Qin Feiyang. He smiled and said, "Brother Qin, do you have anything to say? Is the dragon god condemning me?" Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. "I wouldn't dare." The dragon god shook his head. "Don't be so humble. Since the dragon god can easily break the seal of the law of life and death, you must have extraordinary means. However, I don't think there's anything wrong with what I did in the East Continent. After all, if it was you, the dragon god, and someone asked you to be their slave, I believe you wouldn't be at their mercy." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "Sure enough." The dragon god shook his head and smiled bitterly. He turned to look at the heavenly rock and said, "They are blind. Do they have the right to enslave the famous Qin Feiyang?" But the heavenly rock was quite anxious. Why was he still speaking up for Qin Feiyang? "Enough. You don't find it embarrassing, but I do." The dragon god's eyes turned cold. The heavenly rock shrunk his neck and immediately became obedient. The dragon god looked at Qin Feiyang and Longqin and said with a smile, "Since you two came to the East Continent, you are my guests. As the leader of the beast race, I will do my best as a host. If you two don't mind, please come to the courtyard and have a seat. Deference is no substitute for obedience." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and smiled. "Straightforward. Please." The dragon god laughed and turned to walk toward the courtyard not far away. The heavenly rock followed closely beside him. Its eyes were full of resentment. What does he want to do? Longqin looked at the dragon god's back suspiciously. She thought that there would be a fierce battle when she came to the Dragon God Mountain, and she was ready to fight. But she didn't expect the other party to be so polite. You can't just look at the surface of people and things. Be careful later. Qin Feiyang secretly reminded her. Okay. Longqin nodded. The two stepped forward and followed unhurriedly. But suddenly, Longqin's footsteps paused slightly, and then she frowned. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Longqin stared at the backs of the dragon god and the heavenly rock, and a cold light flashed in her eyes. She said, "They are secretly communicating." "Wait first." Longqin secretly said. "Lord, this subordinate doesn't understand. Why are you so polite to them?" At the same time, the voice of the heavenly rock sounded in the mind of the dragon god. "You're a brute." The dragon god secretly sighed. The heavenly rock was even more puzzled. Why was it scolding it? To deal with these people, we don't need to do it ourselves. The dragon god transmitted. What do you mean? The heavenly rock was puzzled. Although Qin Feiyang and the other invaders are the people that the sovereign wants to kill, the god race, the human race, and the purple gold divine dragon race are also our old enemies. We can use these three races to deal with them. By doing so, we can test the attitude of the divine king, the sovereign, and the human race. Secondly, letting the three races fight with Qin Feiyang and the others is equivalent to weakening the strength of the three races in a disguised way. This will be more beneficial for us to control the three races in the future. The dragon god secretly smiled, as if everything was under his control. So that's how it is. Sky Peng nodded in realization. So this was a stalling tactic. His heart was stirred up as he thought to himself, then I will go to the West Continent, North Continent, and South Continent to look for the king and the others. I will ask them to immediately bring men to encircle and annihilate Qin Feiyang. No need. After learning that Qin Feiyang went to your heavenly rock mountain and severely injured you, I expected that he would come to the Dragon God Mountain, so I sent the Golden Tiger to find the sovereign in advance. The Dragon God secretly said. You knew that they went to Heavenly Rock Mountain? The Heavenly Rock was stunned. As long as it happened in the East Continent, how can it be hidden from me? The Dragon God secretly smiled, his words full of confidence. Your Excellency is wise. These two ignorant fools. I'm afraid they still think that you really treat them as guests. The Heavenly Rock sneered in his heart. As expected, they're two-faced. Hearing this, Long Qin clenched his fists. What? What's the good news? Qin Feiyang secretly smiled and asked. Humph. How can there be good news? This dragon god is scheming against us, and at the same time, he's also scheming against the three major races. Long Qin secretly said. So powerful? Tell me, how did he scheme? Qin Feiyang suddenly showed a trace of curiosity. You're so careless. You've already fallen into their trap, but you're not nervous at all. Long Qin was speechless. Can being nervous solve the problem? Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Long Qin rolled his eyes and told Qin Feiyang the conversation between the Heavenly Rock and the Dragon God without missing a word. What a good scheme. Qin Feiyang heard this and couldn't help but admire the Dragon God. He admired the Dragon God's acting skills even more. He was obviously a typical despicable person, but he pretended to be righteous. The worst thing is that they actually called us ignorant fools? Long Qin was very unhappy. What's there to be angry about? As long as we know who the fools are, it's fine. Qin Feiyang secretly smiled faintly. Then how do you plan to solve it? Long Qin secretly asked. Qin Feiyang pondered and secretly smiled. This show must continue. Otherwise, the god race, the human race, and the purple gold divine dragon race will definitely be in danger. Yes. Let's not talk about the god race and the human race first. Since the purple gold divine dragon race has agreed to join forces with us, then we have the responsibility to protect their safety and not put them in danger. Long Qin nodded. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He was very surprised by Long Qin's words. He actually said that he had the responsibility to protect the purple gold divine dragon race? What did this mean? This showed that Long Qin was now a very responsible person who was considerate of others in everything. Also, the strength of this dragon god, according to your calculations, should be very strong. We also have to be careful, otherwise it's very likely that we'll overreach ourselves. Long Qin secretly warned. Yes. We can't take a wrong step now. Qin Feiyang nodded and immediately sent a message to Li Feng in the Black Tortoise domain, asking him to send a message to Dong Zhengyang and pass on the situation to Boss Ji and the others. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.